Hello, everyone. Welcome live to 3 Wide TV, tonight's broadcast of the National Sim Racing Association. Tonight's race here at the wonderful Iowa Speedway. We got the new Edge Auto Detailing 180. Look at that race logo for you here tonight. An absolute beautiful one. Definitely going to be great to have new Edge Auto Detailing on board here tonight. Well, folks, I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth here tonight is Drew Eisenman. And Drew, I've been looking forward to this race all week long. Iowa is one of those racetracks that a lot of people look forward to coming to because this racetrack has a lot of action due to its variable banking.
Yeah, it is certainly a challenging track. It looks so straightforward. It's so similar in shape to some of the other smaller, or I guess smaller, intermediate, large, short tracks, however you want to describe them. Tracks like Richmond, Iowa's in that category. Phoenix, they all look on paper to be very similar. But Iowa certainly is a little bit different, especially than the track that I think it's most similar to in Richmond. That high lane, middle and high grooves really have just so much banking that it can be so hard to pass, to make that bottom lane work well enough to get around the truck in front of you. And we're going to see who can make that bottom lane work, who can get by the guys in front the best, and just really who can survive this. Based on practice, it's looked to be tricky out there for sure.
Yeah, in fact, winning the practice session was Drew Himmelman in the number 4 machine. Chris Darling coming home in second. Mitchell Adams third. Your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion. Definitely going to be one to watch out for here tonight, as well as, of course, the number 9 machine of James Lorello. Going to be one of those drivers that we're going to have to keep an eye on here tonight. But, Drew, we got trucks out here on track here for the Sim Racing Shirts Pole qualifying. And here's Matt Vanderkoy in the number 60.
Yeah, we'll see what Matt can do. I know I don't think he's quite had the season that he was looking for in that 60 truck. Unfortunately, been caught up in quite a few incidents throughout the early to mid part of the season now, as we are, rapidly approaching the playoffs, actually, in the NSRA Simbox Truck Series. But the 60 truck on track once again, looking to get a good starting position. Notice a lot fewer pink trucks here this week, as we are in the first race of the month of November here in the Simbox Truck Series. So the 60 truck, bright pink last week, back to his standard blue and gold Milwaukee Brewers scheme this week. So a little bit different looking field. It's going to take yours truly a little bit of time to adjust to kind of the regular schemes once again. Andrew Hillman, though, he's still rocking that scheme that we saw last week, that really cool pink to blue fade, kind of like almost Miami kind of vibes going on with that truck. I'm a big fan. And then up at the top of the charts, we have that 50 truck, Bill Edwards, our former points leader, who had a very unfortunate race last week, now coming down pit road. Heck of a time by him, Pete. Now Mitchell Adams takes the top spot.
Yeah, they continue to kind of cycle through that top spot here around this beautiful racetrack. A relatively new racetrack in terms of the racing world. This racetrack kind of coming into fruition there in the mid-2000s. I know Rusty Wallace was one of the people who was a big supporter of this racetrack in its early going. We're watching number 32 of Peter Serto out there on the racetrack right now, trying to see if he can pick up on his second qualifying lap time, currently down in 19th. In fact, he's going to drop down to the 20th position now. But Mitchell Adams in the number 49 looks like he's going to jump to top of the board. Chris Darling out there right now. And Drew, definitely not the lap that Chris Darling was looking for in lap number 1. He's all the way down in 19th in that 47 truck.
Got to wonder if he had a bit of a moment. And it's so frustrating on that first lap because there is a high-pressure situation trying to improve that. It improves a little bit up to 12th, but I was expecting to see that 47 truck maybe a little bit further towards the front. But that's not horrible. I don't think 12th is a race killer for that 47. I expect to see him be real strong here tonight over the long run, as we've seen so much this season from that 47. But I should say, 12th isn't a killer, but it can be so difficult to pass here that it's not terribly it's not where you want to start, right? I think that you see guys like Mitchell Adams and quite frankly, James Lorello, the guys that have been so quick recently, starting first and third. I mean, they've just already set themselves up for such a good position in this race that if we get some longer green runs in this thing early on, 12th is going to be a pretty big hamper for that 47 if he's going to be looking to grab a win tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is a racetrack like any short track where qualifying does matter. And of course, this track just clocking in at under 1 mile at 7/8 of a mile. Very unique that there aren't any other real racetracks that I know of that clocked in at 7/8 of a mile. So definitely a unique racetrack, especially with its variable banking, progressive banking, whatever you want to call it. In fact, Drew, this was one of the first racetracks to kind of go to that progressive banking scheme. We saw Homestead Miami do it. We saw several other tracks. Bristol did it, I believe, after the Iowa Speedway. And of course, Iowa's been known for very good racing, and that's why these other racetracks have kind of gone to that progressive banking route.
And I know that definitely Bristol is a divisive track in its reconfiguration. I don't hate it. I just wish they would have built a different track other than Bristol and left Bristol alone, because I think it does provide great racing. It's just not, I don't think, what people really want out of Bristol. And they absolutely saw Iowa and Homestead, and then you saw that a lot of places adopted this variable banking. It has its pros and cons. I think on the con side, especially in fixed setup, I don't really think that the variable banking in iRacing necessarily provides you a ton if everybody's running the same stuff. I think it really hurts everybody when you have a tight fixed set. From what I saw in practice tonight, trucks look pretty tight out there. So that can make it even more of a challenge to pass in a track that's already not the easiest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's see if we can go down and figure out who tonight's Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award winner, and it is that man right there, driver of the number 49, Mitchell Adams. A little bit different look on that number 49 this week, but congratulations to Mitchell, your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion, for picking up tonight's Sim Racing Shirts Pole Award. But Drew, why don't you lead us through tonight's starting line?
Absolutely. As mentioned, Mitchell Adams on your pole. Outside of him will be Andrew Himmelman. On the inside of the second row, starting P3, James Lorello, your 4-time winner this year in current points leader. To his outside, Aaron Mack, pretty good qualifying for that new look 21 truck. Really dig that red, white, and blue on that 21. The 50 of Bill Edwards, our third place point sitter, will be starting P5. Into his outside, already with a win this year, the 14 of Jeff Price. TJ Buck will be starting back there in 7th position, and Robert Dudley to his outside in 8th. The 30 truck of Josh Sobel in that cool, don't see enough green schemes in my opinion in iRacing. So that neat scheme for that 30 truck, that state-tuned sports truck of Josh Sobel. Starting P9 to his outside will be Ben Adams. And then in 11th, we have the 16 of Brian Bradley with Chris Darling, second in points, starting back in 12th as we covered in qualifying. He'll be looking to make his way forward. 24, Ben Mashburn, the 47's teammate, will be starting right behind him in 13th. With the 51, that interesting number 51 scheme of Paul Bilson in 14th. The 10 of Monty Glover will be starting in 15th. Jordan Shepler in the 13 truck in 16th. That 05 of Stephen Doziak Jr., 17th. To his outside, that, again, fantastic. Every time I see that scheme, that number 7, TikTok of Raymond Heilig, he'll be starting 18th, and I love that scheme. 62 of Colin Ullery will be starting P19. In the 82 truck, I believe this is the first race that we have seen Adam Dama at this year. He will be rolling off in 20th. 60 of Matt Vanderkoy will be starting 21st. The 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr., who's seemed to have started quite a few races in the back, but has managed to kind of recover in almost all of them to have a really solid finish. Currently in your top 10 in points for that 33 truck, he will be starting 22nd. Peter Serto in 23rd. Joey Doucette did not take a time. The rest of these guys, 24th on down, did not take times. Joey Doucette, Doug Milliner, Nathan Maurer, Philip Scott. The last 4 trucks or so did not take times and will be starting towards the back of the field. And there you go, Pete. There's your field.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be really interesting to see how this race pans out. I've heard a lot of drivers talk about this race here tonight and the fact that you know, we might have a lot of caution flags. This setup is not the easiest setup in the whole world to drive, and you know, it's pretty slick out there, and it's going to be something that these drivers have to be mindful of. It's a 205 lap race here tonight, 180 miles around the Iowa Speedway. That's that 7/8 of a mile coming into play with kind of a unique lap count here tonight. But definitely going to be a good one, and we thank all of you in the chat for joining us for this race. Dana Hammelman in the chat. Stay tuned, sports. Mitchell Adams saying trying to put on a good show here tonight because he will be rolling off from the first position. The pace truck going to head down pit road. Green flag in the flagman's hand, and we're about to be underway here at the Iowa Speedway. Mitchell Adams, your reigning champion, up at the front as the field all able to get rolling before they dive off into turn number 1 here, Drew.
Good start there for the front. Pretty calm. We've seen some checkups happen early on some of these starts here in the Simbox Truck Series. Not the case this time as Mitchell Adams, your pole sitter, gets a good start on that 4 of Andrew Himmelman. I was wondering if James Lorello would be able to get up there and maybe get by the 4. Typically, the line in which the leader picks to start the race typically is a little bit of an advantage, but it depends if the leader chooses to go on green or not, and then it's kind of an equal playing field. I believe he did that time, so that lends itself towards Andrew Himmelman being able to kind of maintain that second position. We'll see if that is the case later on in this race. And what I'm seeing so far is, I think, pretty standard stuff. Andrew Himmelman has been exceptionally quick so far this season on the short run. We'll see if he can kind of save his stuff a little bit better than he's been able to do. I do expect to see that 4 truck if we don't really have a long green run that'll punish guys that, you know, tend to just drive the wheels off of those trucks. I think we'll see that 4 truck up there quite a bit, and kind of on the opposite side, the guy that's behind him and James Lorello tends to definitely excel on these longer runs. He's been taking it incredibly easy into most of these corners. There you go, looking at that 9 truck riding on board with the 4 of Andrew Himmelman. He's been taking it so easy, entering into these corners and getting good runs off. That's what we've been seeing out of James Lorello all season, just really taking care of his stuff, but not really losing a ton of speed. So now we're focusing on the 50 and the 9 truck right there. Is getting a little racy behind him there, Pete, is 14 of Jeff Price making a move on TJ Buck.
Yeah, and that number 14 right down there on the inside now of Aaron Mack, and the number 21 machine who's stuck up there on that high groove. Now, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how these 2 different lines work. We mentioned the progressive banking, variable banking, whatever you want to call it, here at this racetrack. That means that the bottom line of the racetrack is actually a little less banked than the second groove, and it's even less banked than the high groove. So sometimes you can kind of use that middle groove, and usually it ends up being the faster line here around this racetrack, at least towards the end of the run. But you see Jeff Price there able to make the move as we ride on board with the 21 of Aaron Mack. And now it looks like TJ Buck up there in the number 84, the Captain Crunch machine. He's trying to use that inside line, and he's going to try and make that pass on Bill Edwards. And that number 84 using that high line. So I think what we're seeing here, Drew, in the early going is that there's a lot of grip down there. Of course, these Goodyear Wranglers are nice and fresh. So as soon as they start to get some wear on them, maybe that line will start to migrate to the top. But definitely a lot of passes, more so than I was expecting here in the early run-in.
I definitely think that in my experience at Iowa, and I've raced here quite a bit, you can make that bottom lane work on the shorter runs, but you're going to kill your tires doing it, especially racing side by side with guys. You're really, really going to wear your stuff out. I have had that problem here on more than one occasion by just you get so enticed because nobody's running down there, and you know the speed that you can carry on the bottom, especially by yourself. I think it is the fastest groove over a single lap, but I just don't think that it's really viable to try to make that work all night long. We will see if guys are able to make it work, but I anticipate the guys that are running up a little bit higher, maybe sacrificing a little bit of pace early on, are going to really be saving their stuff over the course of the run. And man, a little bit of warpage going on for that 21 truck there, Peter.
Yeah, that number 21 there, Aaron Mack, still running in the 7th position. So in that top 10, and that's the 51 of Bilston. What's happened to the 51? Looks like he's off the pace. He's down there on the inside line, possibly having some issue here. Don't see any damage on the nose of that race truck, and trying to figure this out. He is the first truck to go one lap down. There he is. Ooh, almost getting into the number 13 there of Scheffler. But for right now, in fact, Bilson's multiple laps down. Looking at the scoring pylon right now, 4 laps down. Steven Doziak in the Dunkin' Donuts 05, he's now 3 laps down. So possibly some early connection issues, Drew?
I noticed that Paul Bilson disconnected right at the start of the race. It was a manual disconnection. So who knows what happened? Personal stuff has definitely happened to me before, where you have to run and take care of something, and you don't want to just be sitting there on track when the race is about to start. So who knows? It is a long race. If you're going to have that type of problem, literally the start of the race is the time to have it. We've seen guys been able to recover from that this season so far, but 4 is a big number, especially at a place that is so small like Iowa, which guys are going to start going laps down pretty early into a run. I would, our 25th place truck, the last truck on the lead lap, is already 8.2 seconds. That's a quarter of a lap down already for Doug Milliner. Hey, I did the numbers this time, Peter. I was able to do some simple mathematics. So it is it's a tight track, and a track that I think we're going to see a big variance in lap time. So I think it's going to be hard to get themselves in a position to get their laps back, especially when you're 4 down.
Yeah, and for the people watching, Drew, what exactly is your major?
I am a government major.
I'm surprised you can count.
I know. And also, I'm kind of like half minoring in 2 things. I haven't made up my minor yet, but it's either Mandarin or history, because I hate my life and I do foreign languages and stuff. So yeah, I don't do math very well, but I can tell you what's in the Constitution. So that's important, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm just making a joke of the current counting situation in our country. But nonetheless, speaking of counting, I can kind of figure out where everyone else is on the racetrack. And speaking of numbers, Nathan Maurer, we're focusing on him right there, the Simbox trucks. He's so far the biggest mover in the field. He's up 10 positions from where he started. So fantastic start for the 971, already moving up towards the top 15, trying to get around the number 7 of Ray Heilig right there, the TikTok Chevrolet. This will be for the 15th position, and he's using that high line now. We've seen a lot of passes on that inside groove, but now we're using that higher line. Perhaps that inside line starting to fall off, as we kind of mentioned earlier, Drew, that higher line tends to have a stronger run, a bit more bite up there, especially. Oh, that's the 25 Aaron Mack in the wall. Boy, let's see what happened here with Aaron Mack. We'll go here quickly on the 3-Wide TV replay.
We are queuing it up right now, and coming down the front stretch to the outside of that 16 truck, kind of fades down a little bit, and then cutting down into the corner. Oh, doored by the 16, and that is not insignificant contact with the right front of that 21 truck. I can't imagine that that's really going to help him too much with the possible tight condition that these trucks might be experiencing. Now, here we go, Pete. Just turning in, and I think the 16 just kind of fades up a little bit, and 21 unfortunately gets hard on the outside wall. I'd like to give a shout out to the 21 with the Veterans Crisis line on the tailgate. That's a really neat detail that 21 truck's running.
One thing, we're going to run on board here with the number 16 machine, but watch these bumps, folks. There's a lot of bumps here at this Iowa Speedway, and I'm wondering if he just kind of hit the bumps. It didn't really look like he hit any bumps there. You could kind of see when there was the contact, but definitely that is going to hurt the number 21 of Aaron Mack. But let's go back live. Mitchell Adams continuing to pull away. We have had a change in the second position. James Lorello has got around Andrew Himmelman, and Drew, we've been mentioning how Himmelman seems to be very, very quick out of the gate, has a tendency to burn up his stuff a little bit. And Lorello, on the flip side, he's the master of saving his tires here in the first 10 races of the championship.
Yeah, I definitely tend to be more in the Andrew Himmelman camp. I find it very hard to resist, pushing hard when the truck feels good, and then when you kind of pay the price there on the back end when you push hard. And I think what we're seeing too there is, now we're looking on board with Jeff Price, is caution.
Oh, caution flag is out. Let's see if we can figure out exactly what's gone on. I think it's a little bit further back. Let's see if we can we can see this. This is Matt Vanderkoy and the 21 of Aaron Mack. We've already seen Mack have some issues. Oh, contact there down the backstretch. And definitely Matt Vanderkoy ending up into the outside wall, spinning around and finally getting that thing woed up. And, oh, is there coming together again? No, there isn't. Looks like they get everything kind of sorted out. But I think we're going to have to go to the Blimp Cam here, Drew, to kind of see if we can sort this one out. Let's see if we can kind of get a look. Here they go. Off into turn number 1. 21 on the high line, 60 down low, coming up out of the corner. And, oh, man, I don't know if the 21 comes down. I know the 60's going up. I think he expects the 21 to be a little bit higher up on the racetrack, but I'm not 100% sure if Matt came down or that's just the racing deal here at Iowa.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what you said. I think that probably the 60 was just expecting a little more room. The 21 just really didn't take it all the way to the wall, which you definitely typically do at Iowa. I mean, really, any of these tracks that are just ovals and kind of general in shape, you're going to expect that guy on the outside to carry it. I mean, not on the wall, but certainly within a truck width of the wall. And that 21 was quite a ways off of that wall, and I think that's kind of what resulted in that contact. Is now our leaders coming down pit road for the first pit stops tonight. As a kind of a late pit entry by that 49. I thought he was going to go through his pit stall. I am shocked that he didn't have to back that thing back up into this. But now we get to experience probably my least favorite part of iRacing, the random numbers game, and whether your pit stop is arbitrarily quicker than your competitors. And it looks like the 14 managed to win that game, and I think he will gain a spot beating the 4 truck off pit road.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that Adam Dama in the number 82 doesn't look like he made a pit stop at all, so he's currently being scored in 5th, but I expect to see that 82 come back down pit road. Let's highlight our first winner here tonight of the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner, and that is that man right there, Stephen Doziak Jr., getting one of his 3 laps back. So hopefully he can continue to work his way up through the field. He's going to come down pit road here and get some of those fresh tires. And great to see Brookstone Animal Hospital being our Lucky Dog Award sponsor here, as we're now over the 10% distance in the race. But, definitely a cool night. It is the New Edge Auto Detailing 180 here at the Iowa Speedway. We thank you for joining in the chat. We got Garrett Gleason in the chat, Joshua Sobel. He's on the racetrack right now, so he's definitely not in the chat. Dana Himmelman as well in the chat. Definitely great to see you guys. Salvatore Papasano in the chat as well, rooting on, I believe, Peter Serto. So definitely great to have you guys in the chat here tonight. Very much appreciate it here on 3Y TV. And make sure you make yourself heard, as Stephen Doziak. His crew has made his pit stop, and he's going to get back out there. Pace truck lights are still on. And it looks like Bilson here, Drew. I think he's going to try and get the wave around. And, of course, remember that these trucks here in this series, they run a smaller fuel tank, so that could be a bit risky if he has to come down pit road under green.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that if you're multiple laps down like the 51 truck is, it's kind of worth the risk. I think you kind of have to try to take the wave around, hope you get a caution, because then you're unlikely to get the lucky dog. I think with Stephen Doziak still being 2 down, it's going to take a ton of cautions and guys not being lapped and not taking, 4 laps down, 3 laps down, even still, guys get in a wreck, go down 2 laps fixing their damage, and then they're going to be in the lucky dog position. So I think with the 51 truck, I think he has to gamble getting this wave around. So I certainly would be doing that as well. But it's going to be interesting. A little bit of a reset here. Is Andrew Himmelman going to be able to save his stuff a little bit better? Guys like, where did the 47 all the way down to 22nd, Pete? I don't know if we covered that, but that is a disastrous start to the race for Chris Darling.
Yeah, in fact, he's currently being scored 25th on my leaderboard, and I'm trying to see, he made 2 pit stops under this pit sequence, so I'm not sure exactly what Chris Darling is thinking at this present moment in time. He is still on the lead lap, though. That's the good news. He might have got a speeding penalty, Drew. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not seeing anything on my screen, or maybe a blend penalty or something, but you can kind of see he's on that inside line, and that's what we call a tail end of longest line penalty, because he is definitely in the longest line in that number 47 Stadium Truck Toyota Tundra. But meanwhile, back up at the front, Mitchell Adams has chosen the high line for this restart in the number 49 truck. He will lead us back to green. Number 9 of James Lorello to his inside right there in the number 9, and he's already on the lap pedal. Looks like he caught Lorello sleeping, because here comes Andrew Himmelman trying to get up to the second position, and he's going to do so move Himmelman up to second.
It's kind of what I was expecting more of than what we saw at the start, where that 4 was able to hang there in second, and unfortunately James Lorello, just the guy that kind of lost out there, and now he is just barely in front of that 14 truck, who I thought he was going to take that position there and slide it up in front of that 84 of TJ Buck, but a little bit of cordiality going on between those two drivers, as James Lorello now making a move on the 4 truck, trying to regain that second position that he lost on that restart. A little less patience here from that 9 truck this run. Oh, that's a slide job right there coming out of turn 4. Nothing that Himmelman could do. Tries to cross it over, just doesn't have enough momentum. So we're seeing a little hustle out of this 9 truck so far in this run that I have yet to see this season. He's typically very conservative on this, but I think at Iowa, because it can be so hard to pass, and we saw the 9 truck actually lose a little bit of time to that 49 truck that last run, just trying to get by Andrew Himmelman in that 4. So James Lorello not taking that more patient route this time, and right on the tailgate of Mitchell Adams. But pretty close racing up here in the top 5, and I don't think we have quite seen that all race long. But there in 6th place was that 15 truck. Now looking back at the 24 of Ben Mashburn, and another new scheme this weekend, quite a few new schemes. That 24 truck, looking back up at the 14 truck. Yeah, here we are. This is the entire top 5 right here. Nose to tail, nose to tail, nose to tail. So great racing up here at the front, Pete.
Yeah, we're looking out back of the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, right at the front of the number 9. Lorello gets a huge run coming out of turn number 4, and now they're going to be side by side here going off into turn number 1. Adams has a little bit more banking up there in that second groove. Lorello down there on the flatter portion of the racetrack. It's the quickest way around the racetrack right there on the inside groove. But the power in that 49, using that middle groove with a bit more grip, was able to hold on to that position a little bit further back. There is the 4 of Himmelman. He's still now holding on to 3rd. Price and TJ Buck back there still kind of battling for that 4th spot. As you see, Buck gonna use that inside groove. He's gonna slide up. That's another slide job, and looks like Buck's gonna take that position. And I'll tell you what, Drew, the fact that this racetrack has a lot of bumps, especially in turn number 1, sometimes you can hit those bumps just the wrong way. It's happened to me before, and when you hit those bumps the wrong way, it gets your truck completely out of shape. And I think that's actually what might have just happened to the 14 of Jeff Price, because it didn't seem like that truck settled in turn number 1 like some of the other trucks around it, and I think that's what helped TJ Buck make that pass. It's going to be something we're going to have to keep an eye on all night long, is the bumps in turn number 1. They can be treacherous, especially the closer you get to the wall, the more treacherous those bumps get on entry into turn number 1. So we'll see if that rears its head here tonight. But meanwhile, TJ Buck now up into 4th, and that's a great run for that Captain Crunch machine right there. Back behind him, how about this man right there, Bill Edwards? He hasn't gotten to victory lane yet in that number 50. He's been close this year, but definitely, inside the top 3 in points, and lost the points lead last week. Definitely going to be one of those drivers to keep an eye on here tonight, keeping that race truck nice and clean, still sporting that pink look that we saw throughout the month of October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But definitely, so far here tonight, he has lost a couple of positions from where he started, but it's still early. We still have 167 or so laps to go here around the Iowa Speedway.
It is early, and I'm not complaining seeing that 50 truck maintain his pink scheme. I love that just pink and chrome, man. It's not a color combo that I think comes to mind as being visually appealing, but I got to say that 50 truck, it's real neat. The asymmetric design on it, it's just it's different, which is something that you don't see a lot of. You kind of see a lot of very similar stuff being thrown out there. So I always appreciate somebody who's willing to do things a little differently. So I believe we are now on board with Josh Sobel. Yep, in that 30 truck. There you go, Pete.
Yeah, that is right. We got quite a few Joshua Sobel fans in the chat here tonight. Stay tuned. Sports on that number 30. We're riding on board with them right here, running right behind the number 16 of Brian Bradley. And that number 30 so far, he started in 10th. He's running in 11th. He's had a pretty solid start to the race, pretty much right where he started. In fact, all things considered, the only position he's lost from the start of the race is to the 971 and Nathan Maurer, who's the biggest mover in this race so far. Maurer started back in 26th. He's now running in 8th. That's 18 positions gained for the 971. So we know that he is on a charge, but you can kind of just see how it's racetrack races, folks, while we're riding on board with him right here. You can see he's running a little bit lower line, and look at the groove through turns number 3 and 4 as you kind of see Brian Bradley there enter stage right. This racetrack can be a little disorienting for drivers just because you got people running such different lines. It can be kind of hard to gauge where the truck is beside you if you ever get side by side with someone. That low line just tends to push. If you're right down here by the yellow line, it tends to push. You can kind of see that push right there, Drew. It just seems like that race truck just kind of took off from that yellow line, and that's just the factor that that bottom line is so flat. You can feel it as a race car driver, whether you're in force feedback or really just kind of slinging it around here. You can tell that low line is flatter. You can definitely feel the lack of grip there, and you can definitely see a lot of these trucks are starting to migrate to the higher line. But Sobel, you're still trying to use that inside line to see if he can make a pass around the number 16 of Brian Bradley right there in front of him.
Yeah, I think the further you get into the run, the less viable that bottom line is going to be. You're not going to be able to get to the throttle nearly as quickly as you want to, just because you're just waiting on that thing to just turn, because there's no banking to lean on. One of my favorite things to really try to do, it can be very, very difficult depending on the setup, is to kind of straddle that bottom and middle lane, right? Like kind of enter in on that middle lane, and then just use that decambering of the corner to kind of almost upset the car. Like, we've seen, how many times have we seen Kevin Harvick kind of ride the apron trying to like decamber the car and get it to kind of rotate a little bit extra. And that's one of my favorite things to try to do here at Iowa. It can be a real challenge to be that consistent. We're actually kind of seeing that 30 of Josh Sobel, speaking of, almost do that and kind of making that truck turn a little bit better. But here we have a battle right here between that is TJ Buck and Ben Mashburn in that 15 of Robert Dudley here, battling for about 6th position between these guys, trying to make their way up to Bill Edwards and creep inside the top 5. That is a heck of a run. I am sorry, that is not the 24. That is the 971. My apologies. A little bit similar schemes between those two trucks. The 971 able to get a heck of a run on the outside of TJ Buck there through 1 and 2 and really power on by that 84. And now Robert Dudley is trying to make that pass as well.
Yeah, we're actually going to go back and watch the 971's power move around the high line here. That was very, very impressive. Watch, he kind of snookers the 84 machine, just kind of weaving back and forth there, and just finds some grip up there right on that high line, which is very difficult to do. I mentioned those bumps up there in turn number 1. He was able to avoid those bumps, get on the throttle, and just power around that number 84 machine. And we've seen here tonight that number 971, he is your biggest mover. He's now up to 6th, plus 20 positions from where he started. Is the number 15 there of Dudley trying to get around TJ Buck. And Buck's really struggling here, Drew. We saw him get all the way up into 4th position. He definitely burned up his tires on that Captain Crunch Chevrolet, and now he's falling into the clutches of Ben Mashburn and Joshua Sobel, who was able to get around the number 16 machine of Brian Bradley. And now he's really closed in and into this fight for now the 7th position, which is currently held by the 15.
And we just kind of, I think, saw why TJ Buck is starting to really struggle. You saw him send that truck deep into 1 just wash up and think that he might be just overdriving that entry just a bit, which can just, over the course of a run, absolutely murder your stuff. As 24 disappeared for just a split second. But I think that 84, this is going to be a long run until he's able to get to his pit window or have a caution come out or something to allow him to come onto pit road, because, yeah, almost into the outside wall there. Maybe a little bit of contact. He is really struggling there, Peter.
Yeah, and here comes Sobel in that number 30 Stay Tuned Sports Toyota Tundra. Just going to use the low lung to take away the spots to move him up to 9th. Ben Mashburn also able to move up into the 8th positions. And I know that Cummins Diesel number 24 is looking for a strong run here tonight. He ditched the Sunkist scheme, and now he's running the Cummins Diesel Toyota Tundra scheme here tonight. So definitely going to be interesting to see if Mashburn can keep it together for the remainder of the race. We've seen him be strong here over the last couple of weeks, but just have things not go his way. And right now, solidly inside the top 10 in the 8th. But here comes Sobel. Sobel again knocking on the door of another race truck. He's definitely shown some long-run pace here, and that's not the first time we've seen that out of the number 30. He's one of those drivers, Drew, who over the last couple of weeks seems like he's been pretty good about saving his tires underneath them and being pretty quick on the long run.
Seems like we are seeing that 30 truck just get a little faster almost every week. He just seems to just maybe one position a race, maybe not finishing wise, but pace wise, just one position closer to the front every week for that 30 of Josh Sobel. Really impressive. It can that can be, I think, one of the most challenging things to do in something like iRacing is just try, like once you've been doing this for a little bit of time, is still trying to figure out how do I keep improving? How do I not stay stagnant in what I'm doing? And he has figured out a way to just chip away at figuring out what makes these trucks fast, because we are seeing him just be a little bit closer to the front every race. And if he keeps this up, I think we'll see him competing for wins on a regular basis in no time. But looking back towards the back just a little bit, just a few positions behind Josh Sobel, is Chris Darling, who has made his way around TJ Buck, who continues to struggle in that 84 truck. Great recovery for Chris Darling. Remember, he started tail end Charlie on the field coming to this last restart, 25th position, and now he is up inside the top 10. That is a great recovery for that 47 truck. It's just how much has he taken out of those tires, out of that equipment, getting back up to kind of where he was before, which we believe was a speeding penalty based on where he was running on track.
Yeah, and here we go a little bit further back in the pack. This is a battle for 16th position. Colin Ullery has it. That's Jeffrey Johnson Jr. In fact, he has New Edge Auto Detailing on the side of that number 33 truck right down there on the inside. A couple of F-150s battling for this position. Jordan Scheffler back there in the number 13. He's currently 18th. And Peter Serto in the number 32, 19th. So this is a four-car battle for position here. And for now, it looks like Ullery's going to hold on to that spot. But we're definitely seeing, Drew, those two lines here in full effect. The 33 right down there on the low line. You can kind of see him hit those bumps down there. And kind of see the front end of that truck kind of shoot up into the air a couple times. And then you have Ullery there running that middle groove, trying to use a little bit more grip that's there. Longer way around the racetrack, but there's more grip there. And it looks like he's going to be able to hold on to that spot.
Yeah, and we're seeing the challenges that Iowa presents. You can feel a lot quicker than the guys around you, but it can be a real big challenge to try to make sure that you can get by those guys without, contact and tearing your stuff up. And it can be incredibly frustrating and challenging here, just because of the way that this multi-group surface works, that typically the way you're going to pass guys is going to be on the inside, and it's just so hard to get into the throttle center off in the same way that those guys up top can, because they're just carrying so much more apex speed that they can get in the throttle after you and still have more straightaway speed just because of the nature of this banking. And that's what we're seeing tonight. It can be a real challenge. And then in the case of that 84 truck, just kind of in the background there, it can be really easy to use that bottom a little too much and burn your stuff up. But that 24 truck of Ben Mashburn, I think he's making his way slowly towards the front half of this field.
Yeah, Ben Mashburn, he's actually lost a couple positions from the last time we saw him. He was inside the top 10. He's now back to 12, right behind Joey Doucette. Good job by Joey Doucette, definitely showing some long-run pace here. Same thing with Philip Scott right in front of him there in the 44 truck, and I know Philip Scott's been one of those who has been really hot out of the gun early in the races and, early in green flag runs as well. But here tonight, seems like he's probably dialed back the brake bias a little bit, just trying to save those tires. And he's now starting to make some noise inside the top 10. Chris Darling, like we mentioned, started at the tail end of the longest line under that last restart. And now, after about 40 laps or so, he's gotten himself back up inside the top 10 in ninth. But back up at the front, you're not missing a whole lot. Mitchell Adams and James Lorello are running together. In fact, Lorello closing in just a little bit on the number 49. There you can see that gap down there. Last time by, Lorello about a 10th quicker. And I don't think that gap is necessarily accurate. Yeah, there you go. Jumps back up to about 0.7 of a second. But definitely these drivers here showing some pace here at this portion of the race.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing guys that typically run up front continue to run up front tonight. 49, Mitchell Adams, 9 to James Lorello. I think Lorello, yeah, we're seeing him maybe just be a little quicker, trying to look at these times. Yeah, about a 10th quicker, and it's not surprising. I think we're going to see as these runs continue to go, which I don't know how much longer these guys are going to be able to go on fuel, as they only run actually up to 72% fuel limit tonight, so a little bit higher than normal. So maybe a little bit longer runs for these trucks. But, yeah, I mean, he's going to be really, really strong over the course of these longer runs. As now we're looking back here, I believe, yeah, that is the 44 truck of Philip Scott running in 8th position. So we are seeing a battle just on the edge of the top 10 here. As Chris Darling now, I believe that this will move him up to 9th position. It will, as he continues his kind of slow march to recovery to kind of get himself back up to where I think he expects to be in that 47 truck, getting by that 61 of Joey Doucette in the 15 of Robert Dudley. Just kind of going to compare the lap times of the 47 to our leaders, 25.260 for Chris Darling that last time by. Compare that to our leader, Mitchell Adams, 24.8. So not really up there with the leaders in terms of current pace, but he is racing these guys pretty hard here for this 9th position. And he has had to do quite a bit to just get himself up here, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Joey Doucette, though. He's going to try and take that 9th position from Darling, so Darling has a slip up in any way, shape, or form. And I'm a bit surprised, Darling's definitely showing some good long-run pace because, remember, he had to make all those passes early in the run to get up here. Usually that, just wears out your tires very early on. So I've been, kind of impressed with his run once he gets on pit road, which will actually be happening fairly shortly here, Drew. One thing I did notice was Paul Bilson in the 51. He actually had to, contact! The 47's going around and into the wall, and that is a heavy, heavy hit for the number 47 of Chris Darling. We stay green. How about that, folks? But we're going to catch this one here on the 3-wide TV replay as they entered into the corner. Definite contact between these two. Let's see if we can see exactly what happened here from the Blimp Cam.
Yeah, I just think the 61 gets into him there, Peter. I mean, I'm not seeing much that on Chris Darling's end, and I think as Kyle Busch would say, cars killed, cars killed. I think that 47 has quite a bit of damage. Yeah, I think that 61 just maybe that's a little early for those bumps to factor in. I'm trying to cut the 61 a little bit of slack, but I just got to pretty much place that on him. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, that's one of those situations where he is so close to the right rear of Chris Darling. Any move between either of those trucks is going to lead to contact, and that's just kind of the nature of them being in that position with one another. It's that kind of relative situation, and definitely not what you want to have happen if you're Chris Darling coming into tonight. We'll see he comes down pit road here shortly. There's the number 4 of Andrew Himmelman. He's got a little bit of left rear damage on that race car. Trying to see if anything kind of has happened here with him. He's still out there on the racetrack, not 100% sure he's about 6.7 seconds behind your race leader as you see a battle further back. Nathan Maurer, Drew, he started back in 26. He just cracked the top 5 after getting around Jeff Price. So he's now gained 21 positions from the start of the race. By far the biggest mover. In fact, I'm kind of going up and down. I guess Philip Scott at the number 44, he's picked up 19. So we have a couple of big movers here in the first half of the race, but we are quickly closing in on the halfway mark, working lap number 77 right now.
Yeah, this race is going by really, really quickly. And I'm sure that guys like Paul Bilson and Steven Doziak, they're not wanting it to go by so very quickly, though. I believe Paul Bilson had another connection problem and has fallen another 5 laps down because he was 3. So Paul Bilson down 8 laps. Mr. Bad Luck has another unfortunate series of events occur for him. So what are we queuing up here, Pete?
Well, it looks like the 9 had a bit of a slide there through turn number 1 and 2. Let's see if we can go on board here and see if we can see this slide I'm talking about. You can see him kind of going over the bumps. Watch that wheel. Yeah, you can kind of see him just kind of sawing at the wheel. Just a little bit of a slide. He was able to kind of get it back in, underway pretty easily. We're now back live here as he works his way through turn number 1 and 2. Again, we'll see if it happens this time. Nope. Nice and clean that time for the number 9. He is kind of running down your race leader. The number 49 of Mitchell Adams has been doing so. Now I'm going to go to the top side in turn number 3 and 4. I mentioned all the bumps up there in that third lane in turn number 1 and 2. Turn number 3 and 4, you're not going to have that problem. There aren't many bumps in turn number 3 and 4. It's just a little bit too long of a way around the racetrack for a lot of people to use it. But that looks like a big gaggle of cars, up right here. That's Jeffrey Johnston Jr. And up in front of them, Chris Darling in the 47 now with all that damage. He's starting to fall back. Oh, man, Peter Serto in the 84. TJ Buck getting close. Man, I thought that was going to be another accident going off into the corner. And it might be a problem for the number 84 of TJ Buck because he shot the racetrack. And he might have hit those bumps that I was talking about. We'll just see if we can go back and see if this actually was the case or not. Here we go on board right to the outside of Sergio. Man, that was close. In fact, there was contact. And watch, he hits those bumps and just the truck won't turn at all. Has to really slow up to get that truck to rotate. In fact, now that 84 is all the way down to 19th, Drew. And remember, we saw him up there in the top 5 at the beginning of this run.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing that 84 really, 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 really start to struggle. If I were him, I don't know what the fuel situation is for these guys as far as actual laps are concerned. We have been in this run for quite a while now, and I would anticipate that maybe that 84 will be one of the first guys down pit road, but he's not. It's going to be our second place driver of James Lorello, who typically does the overcut here. However, at Iowa, undercut for that 9 truck, as he is going to try to maybe grab the race lead in a way that he is typically not. And by coming down, getting some tires, and getting back out there, as Mitchell Adams is not going to let him get too big of an advantage for that, as he is following that 9 truck down pit road. Chris Darling as well, although I anticipate that 47 might have a little bit longer of a pit stop, as that truck is pretty severely damaged. And here comes darn near the rest of the field, Peter.
So the magic number here tonight, about 59 laps. So Drew will have to keep that one in mind. Looks like a Jeff Price here, who is your current race leader. He's going to go an extra lap or so. So he's going to try and go steer in that red truck. Oh, 16 machine has gone around, and he's hard into the inside wall. Is this going to bring out a caution? He's way off the racing surface, but there are some trucks coming at speed. He's still off the racing surface, going to get it turned around. Is this going to bring out a caution? No, doesn't look like it. So he was far enough off the racing surface that Brian Bradley did not bring out a caution. But let's see if we can figure out exactly how this all happened here, Drew.
Here we go. That 16 truck just maybe clips the apron. It was kind of hard to tell if he actually hit the apron or not. That thing whipped around, though. That 16, then hard in the inside wall. Here we are on board. Yep, just gets that left side on the apron. That upsets the truck. It just goes for a spin cycle in hard contact with the kind of the left front end of that number 16 truck. And
what's happening? The 49's gone around, And, whoa, maybe we'll have to see exactly what happened here. So we're going to go back a little bit further here, Drew. Racing the 47 of Chris Darling, was there any contact with the 49 go around? Oh, man, Jeff Price, late lunch. And, was that the 5 going around? It was the 5, and it looks like the 49 checked up, and we stay green. Can you believe this? Give the flag a shot of adrenaline or something, because we got cars spinning out all over the racetrack. This is the 5 of Adams right here. What happened to him to send him around? Did he just get loose? He did. Look at 15 Dudleys in the wall right there. And my, oh my, chaos happened here at the Iowa Speedway. But all the things that are happening are off the racing surface, so we stay caution-free. And somehow, it looks like this is it gave the number 13 a brief lead. There he is, but he's going to have to come down pit road. And looks like now your race leader is the number 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Has New Edge Auto Detailing on the hood. Of course, tonight is the New Edge Auto Detailing 180, and looks like he's finally going to peel that number 33 onto pit road, which should get the lead to the number 9 of Lorello. But look who he's got in front of him. That's the 10 of Monty Glover. There's a lot of race trucks about to follow a lap down.
Yeah, I know this has been a long week for a lot of people, including the flagman, but I can't believe the yellow didn't get thrown there. That was a lot going on for nothing to happen. It almost, and I know this isn't the case. If I had seen that in real life, I would have used oil or something out of the exit of turn 4 based on basically 3 trucks crashing coming out of there. Maybe I was wrong in thinking that they're tight. Just typically that's what you experience here at Iowa, especially in cooler conditions. Because, man, those guys look pretty out of control loose coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, I just had to make sure that the flagman was still at his station up there on the flag stand. He is still somehow. But we stay green here at the Iowa Speedway. And number 9 of James Lorello is your race leader over the number 50, Bill Edwards. Look at that advantage for the number 9. He has a 7.5-second lead, which is super impressive. Look at Mitchell Adams. Remember, he had that spin. He's only dropped down to 8th. But this long green flag run that we've had, which has now gone on for about 70 laps or so, it has put a good portion of the field lap down, Drew. I mean, look at that. We have a couple of trucks, including Doug Milliner there, there's Milliner in the 9th position. Joey Doucette, who's right behind him there in the 61, he's in danger of falling a lap down. And now we have a caution. Caution flag is out. We'll have to see what happened here. And we do have one truck slow on the front stretch. Who was that that was slow on the front stretch there, Drew? Trying to see exactly who that was. It was a red truck. Was it the number 16?
Mashburn, 24.
Oh, number 24 of Mashburn. And we've been saying, man, he needs to just kind of put a run together. Let's see if we can dial this one up. Racing with the number 33 who just come off pit road. Oh, looks like Mashburn just got loose. Spins down into the grass. Saves it. Does he come back up the racetrack? Yes, he does. And he, unlike the others, ground it to a halt there on the racing surface as to not go back up the racetrack. But a caution flag waves. We were just talking about how that was like a 70-lap green flag run. Well, now that caution comes out, and that's going to save a lot of drivers here as Lorello is going to lead a group of them down pit road.
I think one guy that certainly wanted to see that yellow, the 49 truck, right? I mean, this basically grants him a new lease on life as far as this race is concerned. He was not going to be able to get back up to that 9 truck had there not been a caution. And so this gives that 49 a chance to get tires, because I'm sure those things were absolutely tortured after that. Another guy that wanted to see this, our Brookstone Lucky Dog Award winner, is at the 10 truck, Peter. I can't quite make the number out.
Yeah, that's the number 10 right there, Monty Glover. So he'll get back on the lead lap. We'll have, I believe, 15 or so trucks on the lead lap when we go back to green here shortly. I think it's actually 13 trucks. So that's just tells you about the torrid pace that the number 9 is put together. So a great job there for Monty Lover in the Dirty Gloves Landscaping number 10 F-150 to get back on the lead lap here when we go green flag. But Drew, that's just about going to do it for the first half of this race. We'll get back to green flag, I think, just before the halfway mark. But definitely looks like a 50. He's going to come down pit road this time. He elected to stay out the first time by. But looks like the race lead will go back to that man right there, James Lorello. And, we mentioned a lot of people wanted to see that caution flag, including the number 49 truck, because there he is. He is going to be right now in second again after spinning through the infield.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that one. I think the 50 just probably wanted to get out there and lead a lap. Maybe get that bonus point, and then we're gonna see, right? Here we go. It looked like the 49 was basically out of it, and now he is right on Lorello's back bumper. And I don't think James in that 9 truck has had much of a pace advantage over the long run. Certainly not as much as we have seen thus far this season at most of these races, where that 49 quicker until like halfway-ish through the run, and then we see James Lorello start to come on and be exceptionally quick. Another guy that is hugely going to benefit from this, the 84 TJ Buck. A bunch of these guys, right? The 84, the 32, the 5, the 13, and the 7, all on the tail end. All these guys are going to get waved around, be on the lead lap, hoping for another quick caution. This actually worked out to my favor in a race not too long ago where I was able to have this happen for me. And then I think I finished top 5 in that race. So not a win, but this certainly can completely change.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Drew, it definitely can completely change the race for each driver. Now, one thing I do want to mention for the people watching in the chat, Mitchell Adams in the number 49 truck, 2 tires on that last pit stop. Everyone around him basically took 4. Colin Ullery, another driver back there in the 62, 2 tires on that F-150. So all the cars in front of him, barring Mitchell Adams, all on 4 tires, including Joshua Sobel right there, who's kind of quietly made his way towards the top 5. If he can get just past one more truck, he'll be in the top 5. So I know we got some Sobel fans in the chat here tonight. Good job by him to keep that Toyota Tundra out of trouble here. Some other names up there in the top 5. We got the 971 right there, Nathan Maurer, who's the biggest mover of the race so far. Good job by him. Philip Scott's got himself into the top 10. The 50 of Bill Letters, who came down pit road the second time by. He's currently in 8th. So definitely going to be some interesting people to watch here when we go back green here very shortly, because the race truck lights have turned off. A big shout out to everyone in the chat here tonight. Hopefully you're enjoying this Friday evening with us as we're about to go back to green flag actions. Lorello in the number 9, going to be on the loud pedal, and he's going to get away up at the front. He's only led 10 laps here tonight, but that number 9 machine, he's led a ton of laps all season long, and we are back to green. That number 9, your points leader, currently atop the chart.
Great restart for that number 9. Not bad for the 49, though, either, as we'll see if 2 tires is viable. If we go green to the end, we're going to have a pit stop here. And it'll be interesting to see if 2 tires is able to make a big difference, as Nathan Maurer in that 971 truck looking to make a move on the 4 of Andrew Himmelman for that last step on the podium. It's going to be real tricky here for him. Oh, that was a deep entry into turn 3. I thought he was going to clean out that 4 truck. Is it Himmelman? Oh, loose out of the corner. Is everybody going to be able to avoid him? I think so. Oh, the 33 truck into the grass. Caution. Late caution there.
Yep, so the number 4 machine goes around. Folks, got a question for the chat. Got a comment saying that the sound is crackling. Where is the sound crackling? Is it just the sound crackling overall, or is it a specific thing? We'll see if we can sort that out here briefly. Meanwhile, there's the number 4 machine just spinning right there. Now, whoa, and look at Sobel in the number 30, and then some trucks a little bit further back just scattering around. Definitely fantastic job by the field to avoid that accident. Let's see if we can go on board with the number 30 machine. Looks like just kind of single car spin. Of course, all the drivers who just took that wave around, they're going to be very happy because they're going to be able to come back down pit road on board here with the number 30 of Stubble coming out of the corner here. Oh, man, he got loose as well. And whoa! How about that, Drew? Just kind of sliding through past that race car right there.
Yeah, that's a oh good Lord moment for that 30 truck. A heck of a job avoiding that spinning number 4. Man, Josh Sobel almost spun himself, and it actually might have worked out for him. Getting all out of shape kind of put him in a position to avoid that 4 truck. I don't know that he would have been necessarily able to avoid him if not for that. So heck of a job by really the whole field. 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. also did a heck of a maneuver to avoid that 4 truck, and I'm sure the 4 is very thankful of that as well, because really didn't have any more damage than he did going into that, coming out of that wreck. And also, this is what those wave around trucks wanted to see, right, Peter? We talked about it, that this is kind of a risk-reward thing. They're going to be so incredibly slow, having stayed out. And then that puts them in a not great pit strategy, but now they get to come take tires, and that whole new lease on life that they were hoping for, boom, they have it. They are now not only even with the rest of the field, but actually have fresher tires by a little bit, not a ton, but fresher tires and a full load of fuel. So great job by those wave around trucks to take that gamble. Gamble pays off, and we'll see. Man, these trucks look really tricky tonight. I was really anticipating these guys being really tight, as we just might have had quite a few commitment cone violations there. We'll see if I've seen that result in penalties at some places. I've seen it not. So we shall see if that is the what is happening or not. I don't think it is, but it's been a much more challenging race as far as just being able to keep the rear end under control than I was anticipating. What about you, Peter?
Yeah, definitely. It's been an interesting night. There is the number 24, Ben Mashburn. Looks like he is going to take the lucky dog here under this caution. So let's just take a peek at the number 24 truck. Where is he? He is right there. So we're going to give him the lucky dog award right there. And folks, we're going to step away for just a brief moment. We'll be right back here on 3YT. All right, folks, we do apologize for that. Hopefully everything sounds good now. We did have a brief green flag run that the number 9 of Mitchell Adams was able to take the race lead and hold on to the race lead, but we are now back under the caution flag. So we'll just basically reset, if you will, here on 3-Wide TV. Let's see if we can figure out the reason for the caution here. And Drew, I couldn't exactly see what happened. Were you able to figure out what the caution flag was for?
Unfortunately, I was not. I just reran the graphics configuration tool for iRacing coming into this race, and it limited my draw distance for some reason. So I went back and looked and could not find it, unfortunately. Just based on where guys are running, I would assume it's the 6 or the 4 truck, just kind of based on where they are on track. But iRacing's not rendering those trucks for me, unfortunately, when the caution flew.
Yeah, I think it happened actually back around the number 5. So let's see if we can figure out what happened here. There we go. Ben Adams in the 05 of Doziak. And what happened to Doziak? Was it them? Was that the caution flag came out about then? That'd be a very weak caution if brought out. That's what did bring out the caution. So we'll see if we can get another look at this from the Blimp Cam. Here, play it. And, I mean, they're under green flag conditions. And back there, we saw the 5 get loose, and the caution flag then flew. So definitely kind of an interesting one. Oh, wait, no, green flag's still out at this point. So I take everything back that I said. We're still green at this point. Now the caution flag is out. So let's go around the field and see, was it the 05? No, the 05's okay. Man, I can't seem to figure out. Oh, there we go. There's the answer, folks. The 21 machine. He's gonna go. We're just gonna rewind this right here and see what happened right behind the number 5. And Aaron Mack goes for a spin right there through the grass. So that's the reason for the other caution. Folks, let me know how the microphone is doing. I think what happened. Long story short, is I run a software called RTX Voice, and I believe that the RTX Voice was having some interference with the graphics card. It runs out of my graphics cards, specifically the CUDA cores of my graphics card, and I believe that it was causing some type of interference here tonight. And let me know if it sounds better. It's still the same. Maybe a little worse than before. Uh-oh. Well...
I mean, you sound fine to me, so I'm not sure. You were crackling on my end before, and it sounds great to me now, so that's unfortunate.
Well, hold on. Let me fix something, folks. I know what it is. There we go. That should sound better. Let me know if that's better. I'm possessed by the devil, according to Garrett Gleason. I hope not.
I think what you just changed, I think if you were still running NVIDIA broadcast, hopefully this fixes it. Please, again, let us know if that is the case.
The goal is to not make it sound like I'm under the water or the devil or anything like that. I sounded like Robot Ron Chicky before. Hot Lap Ron Chicky, one of the Total Nonstop Racing drivers that we broadcast here on 3Y TV on Monday nights. All right, folks. That first half of the race, I'll put a bookmark in there and say Robot Peter prior to lap number 115. So definitely, you guys can probably hear a lot more noise in the background. The software I run is supposed to take out the background noise, so if you hear more clicking of my mouse, don't be bothered, but hopefully it's a little bit more enjoyable of an experience. I do appreciate all the feedback in the chat here tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thank you, guys. So anyway, let's get back to the race, because we have had some interesting things happen under this caution flag. We had some drivers elect to come down pit road, including Lorello, Jeff Price, Robert Dudley and company. But then up at the front, we had a couple of drivers stay out, including the 49, Mitchell Adams, Nathan Maurer, Ray Heilig, Joey Doucette, Ben Mashburn. He pitted under the last caution. So definitely going to be interesting to see how these older tires hold up here, Drew.
Yeah, it will be. I'm not anticipating great things, but we shall see. I think that we've seen what happens with older tires here at Iowa. But the 971, right? I don't know that he's going to get out there and compete for this thing anyways. So not a great restart for him, and not an exceptional restart for Mitchell Adams. But what can this 9 truck do of James Lorello? Is he, man, I thought he had the opportunity to take it 3 wide there, 3-1 and 2, that 9 of James Lorello, and he decided that discretion was the better part of valor there, as he is going to definitely try to quickly get through there as the 24 gets into the back of the 61. Ooh, man, that was really, really aggressive through 3 and 4, and they are mixing it up all sorts down this front stretch as they are darn near 3 wide with that 44 truck all the way up top, carrying a ton of momentum is Philip Scott, and teammates almost get together off of 2 there, Peter.
Yeah, how about that? Almost 4 wide there coming out of turn number 2. Very, very impressive there that they're able to get it sorted, but that number 24 right there, Mashburn, definitely struggling in that race truck. He's starting to fall back just a little bit. He's back to 9th now, going to fall under fire from the number 62 of Ullery there on the inside groove. At least for now, Mitchell Adams continues to lead the race, but Lorello has gotten himself up into 3rd. There's the number 44 of Philip Scott and the 61 of Joey Doucette. They're battling with one another. This is currently for the 5th position, folks. That number 44 of Philip Scott's been slowly, as he hit that huge bump up there. You can see how that really cost him the momentum. He lost a little bit of ground there on Ray Heilig, but that number 44 slowly but surely making his way up towards the front.
And Peter, I was telling you before the race started that typically I think bumps add character to tracks, but I think unfortunately in the case of Iowa, that huge bump going into turn 1, it really kind of limits your ability to make that really high groove work, just because it's always going to make that truck either get unsettled in the back end, start to over-rotate, or it's going to make those front tires kind of start to chatter and skip up the track, which it just depends on the particular setup. I would anticipate tonight the rear end is most likely the one that's going to start sliding first based on what we've seen, but we're not seeing tires make as much of a difference as I thought with that 9 truck. The 44 is just absolutely flying, as now we are looking more towards the middle of the pack here. I believe this is right around 7th position with Robert Dudley. Ray Heilig there running in 5th with that 14 of Jeff Price, looking to take that position away and move himself up into the top 5. But yeah, we're seeing with some guys a huge difference in tires, and with other guys not so much. I mean, Mitchell Adams, he isn't suffering terribly, neither is Nathan Maurer, but guys like Ray Heilig struggling a little bit. Same with the 61 as well.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that Adams has been able to hold on to the, Adams has been able to hold on to the race lead over this man right here, the 9 of Lorello. He's got himself now up into 2nd. Now look at Philip Scott there. He's gotten himself around Jeff Price. He's now up to 4th position. So he's definitely on a tear in the Stadium Super Truck number 44 Toyota Tundra. Trying to run down Nathan Maurer so far. These two battling for the biggest mover of the race. Philip Scott's gained 23 positions, same as Nathan Maurer. So this would be the battle for the biggest mover of the race award. Of course, that award is given out at the end of the night. But who's going to take that spot? As here comes the 44. Big run out of turn number 4 for the 44. And he's going to try and get himself up into 3rd. How about that for Philip Scott? I'm really impressed with his run here tonight.
Yeah, we've seen Philip in that 44 truck try to make that high lane work, because we have another yellow on track here, Peter.
Oh, man, another caution flag coming out. We'll see if we can figure out what this one is for. Trying to see if there's anyone slow and off the racetrack. Oh, there is. It looks like the number 5 of Adams has had some contact here. Let's see if we can figure out what's happened between the 47 and the 5 and the 21 of Mac. Ooh, look at the 21. Oh, contact there, and more contact, and that's Chris Darling. Comes into tonight's 2nd place in points, and Chris Darling not having the night he wanted here tonight at Iowa.
I agree. I couldn't really tell if the 21 was involved in that at all. Hopefully this view will show us that it going into turn 1, and I don't think the 21. No, I think the 5 just kind of turns Chris, and then I mean, typically, right, what you do at these non-ultra high bank tracks is these guys just fly up to the outside wall, and heavy contact once again for both of these trucks. Chris Darling, again, you not had the night that he wanted, and at least this one for sure was nothing he could have done with that. He just got flat runned over by that 5 truck.
Yeah, you see him start to come down, and he was already on the brakes. He was definitely trying to back up the corner, but instead the back end of his trucks gets a little bit dinged in there. So unfortunately, that number 47, he's on pit road as we are now back live. A bunch of trucks down there right now. One truck electing to stay out, though. Monty Glover there in the 10 machine. Colin Hillery's going to win the race off pit road. Looks like he is going to take just 2 tires on that 62 Ford F-150. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then you have the 49 machine right behind. Same thing with Lorello. Both of those drivers electing to take 4 tires. But looks like Colin Hillery will be the first driver on tires as Monty Glover now going to roll down onto pit road. In the number 10. There he is, the Dirty Gloves Landscaping F-150, going to come down to his pit box, and that crew is going to go to work. But Drew, we're in the second half of the race. What are your thoughts of the first half of the race? We had that long 70-lap green flag run, but kind of breeding cautions at this point of the race.
Yeah, it's certainly not like kind of worst case scenario, which is just, I mean, constant cautions, right? A good solid run there, green flag pit stops. I mean, but a fair amount of chaos, right? I mean, one of our heavy hitters in points, second place in points, 2 wrecks, and I mean, certainly not unlikely. I never want to rule anything out, but certainly unlikely, I think, to be able to compete for this race win is the 47 of Chris Darling after that second incident that he was involved in. But 49, Mitchell Adams almost took himself out of contention and then able to recover really well. And then what are these guys going to do pit strategy wise? That to me is kind of the biggest remaining question. I anticipate everyone's going to have to pit, right? I think that's a pretty safe assumption. But we've seen 2 tires work with Mitchell Adams, right? I think it worked far better than either of us anticipated. So I think this opens the door, especially for guys like James Lorello, who's really good at saving his stuff. I think that maybe we'll see 2 tires this time, and if we go green the rest of the way, which is a big if, but I think that'll be interesting to see who's willing to try that, who plays it safe and takes 4, and that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for the rest of these next 76 laps.
Yeah, without a doubt. Definitely going to be an interesting last portion of the race. Of course, it is 205 laps here tonight, 180 miles around the 7/8 of a mile racetrack, and great to see Colin Hillery getting some laps led. In fact, let's bring up the laps led here tonight because Mitchell Adams in the number 49 truck has locked up the most laps led here tonight. He's led 103 of the first 130 laps, and I'll tell you what, Drew, yeah, Adams has led a lot of laps. It just doesn't feel like that number 49 has led that many laps. It doesn't feel like he's been that dominant here tonight, perhaps mainly because we've been focusing on the great midfield battles that we've seen here all night long. There's been some spectacular racing here throughout the field, but yeah, first half of the race completely dominated by that 49 truck.
Yeah, he's just he hasn't had the fall off that we've seen him have when he's had this type of pace before, and I think that's what's led to his ability to just stay up front is he doesn't really slow down. I mean, a little bit relative maybe to James Lorello, but not at risk of losing the lead that he tends to build up earlier in these runs. So he's done a fantastic job. And again, that recovery, as we're coming back to green here, but that recovery from that kind of half spin down the front stretch, full spin down the front stretch, to be able to come back and now compete for this race win. Heck of a job by him. As here we go. Great restart by Colin Hillery. Not terrible, but not great for that 49 of Mitchell Adams. It looks like he's going to be able to retain second position. We'll see how quickly are these tires going to make a difference. Is that 62 of Colin Hillery able to hold on to this thing for a while? Is that 14 of Jeff Price really loses the front end coming out of turn 2, and they're going to make it maybe 3 wide going through turns 3 and 4. They are. TJ Buck to the inside of that 44 truck, that 14 on the far outside. They're going to make it work there, and actually that's a great run by the 14 truck as we have another caution.
Another caution is out. Wow, caution's really breeding cautions, and we have a big accident here on the front stretch. And I think it is the number 21 of Aaron Mack who has gone around. In fact, I think it might have happened in front of him. The number 60, Matt Vander Kooi, got loose straight up in front of Joey Doucette. And, oh, man, Paul Bilson in the 51 sliding in. And there you see Aaron Mack in the 21 machine going around. But Drew just a little bit too much beans on the number 60 truck there coming out of the corner.
Yeah, and cold tires can certainly do that, and this was just after a restart. Here we go, yep, just throttles up, and here comes that rear end, and then just an overcorrection, and there's nowhere for these guys to go. And then, I think the People's Champ Award for tonight should go to that 51 of Paul Bilson just for staying out there, being so many laps down, and then gets involved in this, still 6 laps down. That's certainly not going to help that 51 truck. But we'll see if he decides that this race is worth continuing for him. Not been the night that he wanted, but unfortunate for all involved. I mean, that certainly is not intentional on the 60 truck's fault. But once that thing, when that happens, you're like, oh, it's, throw a wheel into it, and then all of a sudden it catches and it goes hard to the outside wall. You're just hoping that it doesn't get worse. And unfortunately for Matt Vander Kooi, Aaron Max, and Paul Bilsons, and the other guys involved, it definitely did get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Trying to figure out if we're going to have a Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner under this caution flag. In fact, yes, we are. That's Steven Doziak in the number 05 machine. I believe he will be your Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. You see him trying to get past the 49 of Mitchell Adams and the 62 of Colin O'Leary. Now, you might be wondering and scratching your head, was Doziak the first car 1 lap down? I believe he wasn't the first truck 1 lap down, I believe. I think he was a beneficiary of the fact that you had a couple of those trucks involved in front of him who might have been a lap down. So that number 05 now only going to be 1 lap down. Big thanks to Brookstone Animal Hospital for giving that man the Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award. So very cool to see that as we are now winding into the last 70 laps of the race. And Drew, we're starting to get into that window. I think we saw trucks go 60 laps earlier in the show on that long green flag run that we had. So we're starting to think about possibly being in the window for their final pit stop.
Yeah, it's starting to get on that edge. I think I don't know. I would wonder who would pit right here, kind of given that. I mean, they're not going to pit now, but I would wonder, if we get another caution here, who's going to be the guy to pit, because these guys don't have a lot of laps on their tires. They haven't burned a lot of fuel, but we're closing in on possibly, if you save a little bit, you might be able to stretch it to the end here. And, I certainly think if you're not the 9 of James Lorello, if you're not that 49 truck of Mitchell Adams, I don't think you're really going to be able to compete with those guys for the race win, as we are looking at Jeffrey Johnson Jr. now bringing that thing back down pit road. He was involved in a wreck not too long ago. Maybe he's trying to fill it with fuel and maybe take 2 tires or do an alternate strategy.
Yeah, I was gonna see if we can have a quick word with the number 33 machine. Hey, Jeffrey Johnson Jr., Peter Short, 3OY TV booth. You got a copy?
Sure do.
Hey, well, I'll tell you what. You do have New Edge Auto Detailing on that truck here tonight. How's that number 33 driving for you?
It's actually not too bad. I feel like it's a top 10 truck. We just haven't had a whole lot of luck to get up there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that number 33, you got New Edge Auto Detailing on the hood. Tell the fans watching here about your sponsor here tonight.
Well, it's a business I own here in Columbus, Indiana. We specialize in paint correction and ceramic coatings and vehicle reconditioning. We do your average detailing, but we like to go a step beyond that and really perfect paint and bring it back to a like-new finish.
Well, awesome to have you as tonight's race sponsor with New Edge Auto Detailing. We're about to go back to green, so best of luck here, Jeffrey.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well, we'll move him back to his clan, if you will, here on Discord. so he can get with his crew for the rest of the race. But Drew, pace truck lights are off, so we're going to go back green here very, very shortly here on 3 Wide TV. Very much looking forward to the last portion of this race. We've seen a lot of good action. We've mentioned that many, many times, and we've seen a lot of comers and goers in this race. I mean, I'm looking up and down our charts right now. Philip Scott plus 21, Colin Ullery plus 18, Nathan Maurer plus 18. So definitely a lot of comers and goers here tonight, and I think that bodes well for the last portion of this race as that pace truck heads down pit road. Colin Ullery going to lead us back to green. He was the leader for the last green flag run that we had, and he's going to get out front here with a good jump. But now the 49 has that inside groove. Remember, he has 4 fresh tires versus the 2 fresh tires on Ullery, and we've seen a lot of pace out of that 49 truck here tonight, and it looks like he is just going to go to the inside of the racetrack trying to take away that race lead, Drew.
Yeah, and we've seen 2 tires be viable with the 49. Man, that's some close racing there on the exit to turn 4. Mitchell Adams has made 2 tires work before. Is he going to be able to best that 2-tire strategy? Colin Ullery is the 44 truck. It's way out of the groove there through 1 and 2, but keeps it out of the outside wall. Philip Scott there lost maybe 2-3 spots through turns 1 and 2, but Mitchell Adams clears Colin Ullery for the race lead as by 0.01 of a second had led the previous lap, and here comes Jeff Price by that 9 of James Lorello. Not what he wanted to see, as Mitchell Adams now has 2 trucks between he and basically the other truck that's been able to compete with him with James Lorello, but maybe Jeff Price has this thing figured out. This is as high as we have seen that 14 truck all night as he started down at 16th. 6th rather. Of note, Colin Ullery started 19th position. This is a heck of a run for that 62 truck. I really dig his kind of different Red Bull paint scheme as well. It's kind of I'll change in here a little bit as Mitchell Adams has been out front quite a bit, but I think we're seeing pace out of this 14 that we really haven't seen so far tonight.
Yeah, without a doubt. Was that one car having some issues back there? Maybe some connection issues back in the back of the pack? Seems like everything going to be sorted out here nice and neatly throughout the field. We do have a couple of cars sitting on pit road. Ben Adams in the number 5 has also taken his truck to the garage. Same thing with Paul Bilson. Matt Vanderkoy, Aaron Mack, both sitting in their pit box trying to get some of their damage repaired after this most recent accident. We'll see whether or not they're able to make it back out there on the racetrack or not. But back up at the front, look at the number 15 right there. Robert Dudley just slotting up in front of the number 14 of Philip Scott. Number 44 of Philip Scott. And I'll tell you what about the 44, Drew, is we've seen him be very good on that long run because he's been using that high line. We've mentioned that here tonight, that if you can make that high line work, you can save your tires a little bit. And it's really in that long run where we've seen Philip Scott get able to move through the field, but almost got moved by the number 15 of Dudley as those two had it coming together out of turn number 2.
Yeah, that 44 certainly wasn't going to let himself be bullied by that 15 man, those guys were close. I was wondering if they were going to be able to make that work out. But back up just a little bit ahead of these guys is now we are looking at Josh Sobel racing that number 32 truck of Peter Serto. Back out front here, James Lorello moved back by that 14 truck of Jeff Price and now looking to make the move on Colin Ullery. Again, what we're seeing is it just takes a minute for this 9 truck to kind of get himself back up to full race speed relative to his competitors. And there he goes. Powers on the outside on by that 62 truck. James Lorello right kind of there where we expected him, but Jeff Price also following him is, I think, Colin Ullery starting to feel the price that he is going to pay for these 2 tires relative to his 4-tire brethren. I think that it might have been able to make it work. Maybe those left sides were a little bit higher up to 10th. There's some smoke there on the apron. And maybe a guy had spun around on the apron. Yeah, I think that there was. It's very strange. I believe that is the 61 truck that had spun on the apron. There he is. Yep, throwing some smoke out of that engine. I believe that truck is done, Peter.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't look good for Joey Doucette in the Mountain Dew Chevrolet. So he's going to have to come down pit road and find his pit crew and see whether or not they can get that truck back out onto the racetrack or not. We continue to watch this battle back here as the 44 and 84 now going toe-to-toe with one another there through turn number 3 and 4. But Philip Scott, again, closing in on the back of Colin Ullery. Remember, Ullery took 2 tires, and a lot of these trucks around him took 4. And that 44 truck running that higher line, definitely saving a little bit of tires, while all these other trucks using that low line to try and get around them, they're going to be really eating through those tires because of how flat it is down there in the racetrack. It doesn't look much flatter, but definitely you can feel it when you're behind these race trucks. And you can definitely feel the bumps that are down there as well. Just watch the kind of hop that they do right there in between turn number 1 and 2. And it's really bad there on the bottom of the racetrack. So it definitely burns your tires a little bit more. But here comes Robert Dudley trying to get the spot back from the number 84 of Buck. Buck, your winner from earlier this season at the Texas Motor Speedway, trying to pick up win number 2 here tonight. And back behind him, Peter Serto and Joshua Sobel. These two have been locked in this battle for positions for quite some time. This is the battle for 8th. Peter Serto slowly but surely been climbing his way through the field as the 44 throws some right side sparks up there. That's going to open up the door for the 84 of TJ Buck. They're now side by side for position as Adams continues to lead. Lorello still in second. This is the best battle out there on the racetrack right now. You could throw a blanket over these 4 trucks, and then the 4 trucks behind them are also very racy with one another. Good stuff here.
Yeah, that is that's the risk you run of running that high groove is you can kind of pretty easily get into that outside wall. But it's interesting that the 84 truck, it doesn't seem like he's really changed what he's doing too much, even though he absolutely burned up his stuff earlier in this race. He is still just making that bottom lane work for him. That is a heck of a run by that 15 truck. And man, these 2 lanes are really, really equal right now. And you're seeing just how difficult it can be to pass. Is the 44 I thought was going to look to make it 3 wide there as he's just looking to get around that 62 truck. And we are really, really seeing what 2 tires is going to do for these guys over the long run. I think that 62 truck had Ullery, done this under a green flag stop where you really gain an advantage in the shorter amount of time you spend on pit road. I think that would be a totally different situation than what he's experiencing now, which is essentially starting even with these guys around him that are on 4 tires. And obviously, we are seeing 4 tires makes a huge difference. Man, he is throwing some blocks on that 44 truck.
Man, that 44, oh, he got into those bumps that I've talked about, and that's going to lose him a couple of positions. Scott just running a little bit too high up there on the racetrack, and now he's going to fall back to the 8th position. Buck now trying to take 4th from the 62 Ullery, who's putting up a mega fight there. Like a brick wall is Colin Ullery. Look at these trucks lining up behind him. They're all voraciously trying to pick up spots from one another. It is now a gaggle all the way from 4th, all the way back to Jeffrey Johnson Jr. We just talked to him in the number 33 truck. He's right back there, right behind Andrew Himmelman, who had a great start to the night in the number 4 truck. He's starting to work his way back up towards the top 10. This is some good stuff. Back up at the front, Lorello's closing in on the 49 just a little bit, but we'll keep on this battle as we're 3 wide. How about this, folks? Through turn number 1 and 2. This is the battle for 4th. And look at Nathan Maurer. Just a huge shot around the outside. He's going to clear the 62. Where did he come from?
Yeah, this is, looks like Talladega almost, but it's not. It's literally about as far away as you can get from Talladega. Maybe Martinsville's a little further away, but I wouldn't expect to see hack racing darn near at Iowa. And man, this 44, he's going to force it to the outside of Colin Ullery. And man, he has been, it's contact. The 44 again forced up the track. Man, that 44, I have to imagine, is fuming. I think he felt he's going to have felt like he got really, really, really put it nicely. His track position was compromised by the 62 truck, and we will see if he thinks that a little bit of revenge is in order. Hopefully not, right? I don't think any of us want to see that, but you certainly you can appreciate being frustrated like that. The 44 has shown so much pace, and he's really kind of made something work that not many of the other guys have been able to work in that kind of very, very high lane, and unfortunately that 62 has just taken that away from him. And it's just cost him. I mean, heck, he's outside of our top 10 right now when he was almost in our top 5 there earlier. And man, yeah, this is certainly costing Philip Scott quite a bit, as now he is back up. Oh, there he goes. That's going to be a wreck. Oh, are they going to save it? Good Lord, no, caution.
And that's Peter Serto in the number 32. And I know we have a couple of Peter Serto fans in the chat who absolutely didn't want to see this. Coming out of turn number 4, here they go. I think we're going to be able to see this contact, and I'm not sure if the 62 came down. It kind of looked like the 62 came down at the initial glance, and then the 32, man, just getting caught there by Scheffler in the 13, and that's pretty heavy contact with the outside wall. For some reason, doesn't look like iRacing gave him a whole lot of damage, so that's the good news. But hopefully there's not a lot of damage on that number 32 truck. We'll get another look at it here in our turn number 1 entry. Yeah, there's the contact, and it just seems like that number 32 just, got put up into the outside wall. At least that's kind of what it looked like to me, Drew. It definitely is one of those things where it's a little hard to call because of exactly, it all kind of have a coming together. Let's see if we can kind of slow this down and see if we can sort this out.
Yeah, looking up top here, I'm just looking at the 62 relative to the outside wall, right? I think that's the only fair way to really look at this. Does he move down? I think he starts to move down right there, Peter. I think he starts to get more in the tracks of that 15 truck in front of him. And then when that happens, I don't think there's a lot that Serto can do in that 32 truck. And I thought these guys were going to just destroy the inside wall when they made contact with each other and able to keep it relatively together. I wonder how much damage that 13 truck has. I feel like the 32, somehow the majority of his damage came from that contact with the 13 truck, which would worry me for Jordan Scheffler. That outside wall, like he did hit that a ton, and I'm kind of surprised that it didn't give him more damage than that.
Well, of course, while we were watching those replays here, your leaders did come down pit road. Mitchell Adams, first truck off pit road. He was slowly being caught by James Lorello under that green flag run. Race lead had gotten down to a couple of tenths of a second. It was up over about a second or so when Lorello was finally able to make that move up into second. But as of right now, all the trucks going to be on equal footing. Jeff Price there, third off pit road. Nathan Maurer, how about him? Bill Edwards, Robert Dudley, Philip Scott in the 44. He was able to get himself back up into the top 10. So that's good news. He's in 7th. And Joshua Sobel in 8th. And what about the number 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. right there and the number 13 of Scheffler? It doesn't look like Scheffler had a lot of damage. He came down pit road in that race truck. And let's see if we can possibly dial up the number 13 of Jordan Scheffler. Where is he at? There he is. Let's see if we can catch a quick word with him into the booth. Hey, Peter Short in the 3-wide TV booth. There, Jordan, you got a copy?
I got a copy.
Well, seemed like a little bit of contact there on that number 13 truck, but it looks like the front end's pretty square. Tell us about that truck here tonight running around Iowa.
We've been really strong on the long runs. Short runs, it's just kind of keeping her straight, letting these tires heat up. That's the biggest problem we're having right now. But long runs, I'm really able to gain some speed on these guys. It seems like either they burn their stuff up pretty quick, or I don't know, they just might get hung up by traffic. But I know I caught that the top 10 pack pretty quick there a while ago.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy out the front of that truck. I mean, what was going through your mind when you saw 3-wide Iowa, 2 or 3 cars deep? That was crazy.
It had actually happened for a few laps, and I'm like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? And luckily, whenever it happened, I had a clear lane to go down on. It actually showed that I got 4X, but I didn't have any repairs to make whenever I hit the pit stop. So I'm pretty thankful on that.
Well, definitely a little fortuitous there, but Jordan, the pace truck lights have turned off, so we'll let you get back to it. Best of luck here in the final 39 laps.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, folks. Well, we'll let him get back to it. And Drew, very fortuitous. We were concerned about him and his damage, but from the sounds of things, looks like he's clean and green on that 13.
Yeah, certainly you don't want to see a guy just kind of get collected in something that he definitely had no part of, right? So good to hear that that truck seems to be all good to go as we're really entering the final portion of this race here. Just under 50 laps to go. 40 laps to go. I told you I can't do math, right? Told you can't do math. Under 40 laps to go here for Mitchell Adams, who has been so strong all night, leading this field back to the green flag as our pace truck pulls off, coming out of turn 4. There, early restart by Mitchell Adams, but that's exactly what he wanted. Nice and clear of James Lorello, who I think is going to stay clear of Nathan Maurer in that 971 with Jeff Price right on his rear bumper. Now, last restart, we saw this 9 truck really struggle as he kind of struggles to get out of turns 2 there, Peter, and we have another caution.
Another caution flag is out, and we'll see if if we can figure out what happened. Looks like it might have been the 82 truck here. That's Adam Dama in that Toyota Tundra coming out of turn number 2. Oh, just got too slippery in the rear, and Matt Vander Kooi getting a piece of it as well. And we just heard from the number 13 of Scheffler that these drivers are really struggling with the cars on cold tires. And another car who just got involved in this one, Drew, looks like the number 62 of Colin Ulrey just got a piece of it. And remember, he was one of those trucks on pit road and involved in that last accident as well. So unfortunately for the 82, looks like quite a bit of damage on that car, but luckily only 2 vehicles involved in this caution. So we'll kind of re-rack them here in a minute and we'll go back to green. But this also gives us an opportunity to talk to one of these drivers. Drew, who do you want to talk to under this caution?
Looking through the field, let's go ahead and bring up Jeff Price, see what he has to say.
Yeah, let's see if we can pick up our 3rd place driver. Where is he? I just saw him here on the Discord channel. I just saw him. Where is he? There he is. Horizon Motorsports, and we'll bring him up here into the booth there. Drew, take it away.
Hey, Jeff Price, Drew Eisman, 3-White TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir. What's happening?
Well, I think you're the only guy that we've seen really be able to pass James Lorello and get up there and mix it up with Mitchell Adams on pace in under green conditions. How's that truck feeling tonight?
It's pretty good. Little loose for me. Like I love a loose truck, but sometimes it just catches you off guard. So you have to kind of keep that in the back of your mind and kind of flutter that gas on the X a little bit, have fun, hang it out. But it's I really do think it's the 9 or 49. They're both really good on the long run. I have pure speed on the short run, but I have to burn my stuff up. So if we get a couple more cautions here, I really do think I can stick with them and have a lot of fun with it, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, I don't think, going to get a full green flag run in here, 35 laps to go, right? So it definitely is going to favor guys like you. We've seen quite a few of the rest of the field kind of have that same situation where they can keep up with that 49 and that 9 on the short run, but then those guys are just able to somehow save those tires a little bit better. What do you think is that you're doing maybe that's costing you that, or is it just the lines that those guys are running, or are they just back in the corner differently? What can you see from that truck?
Well, from when they get out ahead of us, they're able to move up a little bit, get out of the bottom line, and once they get separated, they're really good about just getting up high, and then they can just let up and slow up a little bit. I know the 9 has been chasing Mitchell most of the night, but that's why they were really able to get away. But for us, small guys back here, we have to pretty much get the hook around the bottom, and that's the thing about this track. I love running the bottom, but it only lasts for about 30 laps, and then after that, I'm searching. And I'm usually the guy everywhere else that I save my stuff and try and be there at the end, but at this track, I love this place. I love being right around the bottom, and that's where it's going to be won tonight. So if we can try and stay with them, and hopefully I can get past them late in the race.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned the different grooves. We've seen guys like the 44 try to make the very top work. We've seen on the short runs, that bottom kind of be the quickest over the span of a few laps. How big of a difference have you noticed in the lines that you run and the tire wear that you're getting out of this thing?
It's about 30 laps into the run. It's about 2/10 of a lap difference if you can stay on the top the whole time. If you can get it to work really in the short run, it's fantastic. But a lot of times you'll lose ground. So it's you got to watch the bumps in 1 and 2 with the top, especially because you can either get really loose or really tight. But it's it's whatever you think's the best for your truck. Mine's on the bottom. Somebody else could be the top.
That's great stuff, Jeff. Thanks for talking with us. And we know you guys are going back to green here, so we'll let you go. And once again, thanks for talking with us.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Well, definitely a very interesting from the number 14 truck there, Drew. Very, very interesting to hear what he had to say there about the different grooves. And, with about 33 laps to go, he says that inside groove is good for about 30 laps. This could be a great finish here at the Iowa Speedway. Pace truck headed down pit road. Race in the hands of Mitchell Adams once again. He's led a ton of laps here tonight. 137 here, just now leading 138. And he's going to get away to another good jump over the number 9 of Lorello. But we're watching that high groove. Can Nathan Maurer make a charge here on that high groove? The number 9 cuts him off, but here comes Jeff Price on the inside line, trying to take away second.
This is exactly what we just talked to the 9. Oh, we got a truck around 13. Jordan Scheffler into the outside wall in turn 4.
I thought it was the number 47 there for a second. Chris Darling, I thought his night goes from bad to worse, but he is sitting on pit road. We'll dial up this replay right here, racing with the number 30 of Joshua Sobel. And, oh, man, they're going for the same spot on the racetrack. That happens here at Iowa, because we've talked about the fact that there's all those bumps in that high line. Sometimes you just try and go for the same spot as another vehicle, and that has a tendency to happen. We'll go back and see this one from the Blimp Cam here, Drew, and we'll kind of slow it down and watch the number 30. He's kind of running that middle groove there on the racetrack. The number 13 starts to come down off the wall. The 30's he feels like he's holding his spot, and just a clip from the number 30 on the back of that number 13. That is just the slightest of nudges. And we'll see if we can get that one more on this replay. Here we go, on board with the 30. Just watch how slight of a touch this actually was. The 13's coming down, and just a tap. And looks like, Sobel, no damage on that race truck. He's going to be able to get things sorted out. But do want to make note, under the last few cautions, we actually have had the same Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Award winner. It's right there. That's Brian Bradley. And he's going to get one of those laps back once again. So we're currently at 18 trucks on the lead lap. But Bradley currently being scored now, I believe, 2 laps down, I believe, when we go back to green flag here shortly. So that number 16, definitely your lucky dog of the night here for Brookstone Animal Hospital. So he's trying to mount a charge back, and there's a lot of damage on that truck. But the more cautions he gets, the luckier he gets. Maybe he can get to the lead lap before this is all said and done.
Yeah, I think he's accomplishing what Paul Bilson was trying to do right earlier in this race, and unfortunately didn't work out quite so well for Paul, but it is working out for that 16 truck. You're kind of going back to that incident, and now we're seeing the 30, who definitely, I think, rightfully was at fault for that deal. But it just goes to show you that I think if that amount of contact were to happen on corner exit, I think that 13 just kind of probably gets shot up the track, but I don't think he loses control like that. Just that corner entry is so sensitive, especially with how loose these guys are. That just a slightest bit of contact going into the corner before that truck really loads up is what's going to, cause that almost every single time. So unfortunate for both those guys, right? Like the 13 obviously has damage, but now the 30 at the tail end of the field. But neither of them wanted. I don't think either of them were expecting that to happen going into turn 3. But it shows you just how quickly stuff like that can happen here at Iowa.
Yeah, now they might have to think about using a little bit of pit strategy to get up to the front. And Drew, personally, the way we've seen 2 tires work here tonight, man, I'm kind of questioning whether or not we're going to see any more 4-tire pit stops here tonight. I would think if we get a caution flag, with maybe about 20 laps to go, that a lot of these drivers would come down pit road. But I don't think they'd take 4. I think they'd take 2. and maybe even with less laps, maybe 15 laps to go or so, that you'd come down. But I don't think you're going to take 4. I think the left side tires on these trucks are going to be the left side tires that will be on them when the checkered flag falls at this point in time, because we've seen 2 tires work pretty well tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with the logic, but sometimes the whole field, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 guys, does something that you don't expect. Maybe we see all these guys take 4 tires and our leaders take 2. And then all of a sudden the field is completely changed because everyone else is at an advantage to those 2. I mean, strange stuff like that happens, right? Where logic absolutely would dictate that that's what you're supposed to do, but that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. So this race of cautions, it introduces so many unknowns into a race like this, where it seemed very obvious that the 49 and the 9 could go on to win this race, and that probably Jeff Price, Nathan Maurer, Robert Dudley, and Bill Edwards, right? Those guys kind of towards the end of the top 5, the front half of the top 10, those guys kind of seem safe in their position. But just when you have cautions like this, it can just lead to so many things changing that are unexpected, just because guys are going to react differently.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens if we do get another caution at some point here in the closing laps. But nonetheless, the race going to be back in the hands of the number 49 of Mitchell Adams, as he will lead us back to green. We've said that a couple of times here tonight. Green flag waves here at Iowa. Now we got to watch Nathan Maurer and the number 14 of Jeff Price. Remember, Jeff Price back there was trying to get around Lorello when that caution flag flew. And look at him again trying to use that low line. He says he's a low line feeder. He's going to try and use that bottom line to take away second. Look at the number 50 back there. Bill Edwards trying to make some move as he dives to the bottom of the racetrack. This is some good stuff right here. We're going to have 25 laps to go, and Price just couldn't quite clear the number 9 machine coming out of turn number 4. They're still side by side as they go off into turn number 1.
Yeah. Oh, another caution. Another caution.
Yeah, yep. They're definitely struggling here to get these tires underneath them. It seems like these cautions are breeding cautions. This one happening up around, I think, the number 7 of Ray Heilig, and you see just that back end just comes around. We've seen that before. And oh, Joshua Sobel in the 30 also sliding through the grass. There he is, no contact between them, and looks like Heilig brought out the yellow, but Sobel also going for a spin. Good news, no damage on those trucks, so they'll get them pointed in the right direction and back underway. Now the question's going to be, Drew, we only got maybe another lap on those tires. Jeff Price was able to get up to second. That's good news for him. Any takers on pit road here, would you expect? I mean, the number 15 there of Dudley, he looks like he's kind of showing like he's going to come down pit road. And, the number 9 stays out. The number 15 stays out. Back behind him, the 50 comes down pit road. So it looks like we do have at least one taker, but it looks like only one real taker. The 50 of Edwards here. Trying to see if anyone near the back of the pack's also coming down pit road. Joshua Sobel coming down. Ray Heilig coming down. Those drivers were at the back of the pack anyway. So seems like some of these drivers saying, you know what, I'm not going to listen to the commentator. I'm not going to come down. I'm not even going to take 2 tires. I'm going to come down, or I'm not going to come down. These drivers on pit road right now, they're probably going to take 4 tires, and that will be it for the rest of the race. But the leaders all staying out, so going to be interesting to see if Bill Edwards in the 50 can use those fresh tires to his advantage. He knew he wasn't going to win the race, staying on the same strategy as the trucks in front of him, but now he's going to be mired well back in the pack, currently being scored 16th with the live telemetry that I have.
Yeah, I think if you're that 50 truck, you're just hoping that when you go down, you pull a lot of the rest of the field down. It seems at Iowa, there's not like a hard commit cone, and you can basically bail last second when you're coming onto pit road without a penalty. So I think that if it encourages people to kind of play those games coming onto pit road. So I definitely think the 50 thought more guys would pit with him, which is surely unfortunate. 16 have another Brookstone Lucky Dog Award. Pete, is that why we're looking at him?
Yes, he did. So he's now only 1 lap down in that number 16 truck. So he just needs one more caution to get back on the lead lap, which definitely makes him the super lucky dog of the night for sure. We'll have to see exactly where Brian Bradley finishes when everything is said and done. Bill Edwards, fresh tires on that truck. Looks like he's going to be restarting, as I said, in 16th. Joshua Sobel, 17th. Ray Heilig in 18th. We'll have to see just how far they can climb through the field when we go back to green. Mitchell Adams is your race leader. Jeff Price second. James Lorello in third. Let's see if we can catch a word with one of these drivers a little bit further back in the field. Let's see if we can get a word with the number 44 here. We'll see if the looks like the pace car lights here are staying on. So let's see if we can catch a word with the driver of that number 44. Where is he? There he is. Philip Scott. We'll drag him down here into the 3-wide TV booth. Hey, Philip Scott. Peter Short here in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, 10-4.
I'll tell you what, man. It's been an interesting night for you in that race truck. You charged up there into the top 5. You're running in 7th. You seem to be really favoring that high line. Tell us how that 44 is driving here tonight.
Yeah, so I actually went into today. Well, first off, I spun both my qualifying laps, so I started dead last. And then I decided to really use, like, being in the back to really practice, like, long run speed, like, because that's been an issue of mine in this league and also TNR. And so then I noticed myself slowly climbing up after saving it, and then I really started to get a groove for the track, and then, sure enough, I ended up doing some really aggressive moves that probably made a couple guys mad, but I'm really glad that we all trusted each other to, like, keep it going clean. But yeah, now it's just time to see how good I can do on this restart. It's going to be a little tricky on the inside, but yeah.
Well, Philip, we'll let you get back to it. Pace truck lights are off. Good luck here for the final 20 laps.
Thanks.
Well, that's the number 44 machine. Philip Scott looks like he's going to be starting inside row number 4 for this restart. So that's the 7th position here, Drew. Been impressed with this run here tonight. We'll have to see exactly where he ends up finishing.
Yeah, he's definitely kind of done what no one else has been able to do there on that really high lane. But here we come back to the restart. Just 20 laps to go. Great restart by that 49 truck. And man, these restarts have been brutal for the 9 of James Lorello. We'll see if he is able to kind of have a little bit better of a one, or if he's going to, struggle. If his struggles will continue, as Mitchell Adams not struggling on this restart. Quite a few truck length lead between he and Jeff Price's. Yeah, here comes that 15 truck on James Lorello. He might be falling back to the 5th position there. As, man, he definitely does not like these late race cautions, as it is just really costing him time. We have seen him succeed on that short run, so we'll see if he is able to kind of figure out that form again. As Jeff Price starting to close down on our leader. And here's that 15 of Robert Dudley with the guy that we just spoke to, the 44 Philip Scott. They are right behind Jeffrey Johnson Jr., who I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, might have started way back there in 22nd, as actually quite a few of our guys running up front have started way back in the field. But a heck of a recovery there for that 33 truck, as now he is really applying pressure to that 9 of James Lorello with Robert Dudley behind him. They are both slowly closing in on Nathan Maurer there, but kind of stabilized up front here, Peter.
Yeah, single file pretty much right up there at the front of the field. There's Steven Doziak in the 05. This is the first side-by-side battle well back in the pack. This is for the 14th position. Ullery has it. Doziak wants it. And right behind them is the number 30 of Sobel, who is on those fresher tires. Ooh, man, I saw a big wiggle out of that man right there. That's TJ Buck. He's able to get that 84 back underneath them. He was completely sideways coming out of turn number 4. It's Doziak's in the wall in the 05, bouncing off that outside retaining wall. I think he probably hit those bumps that we've talked about here tonight a couple of times, Drew, and that just shot him up into the wall. Those bumps are treacherous here, folks. And here's the number 50 of Bill Edwards. Remember, he's the first truck on fresh tires. He just got himself up into the 10th position with a pass on Doug Milliner, who's had a pretty quiet night in the Indianapolis Colts Ford F-150. Your pole sitter from Indianapolis in that truck. And there comes Scheffler trying to get underneath him in the number 13 truck. So definitely keep our eyes on Bill Edwards as these laps wind down. Remember, he is on fresher tires, but back up at the front, continuing to run single file. Mitchell Adams was managing the gap back to the number 14. There he is, and Lorello starting to close back in on the 971. He's gapped the 33 there of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. as behind Dudley. There's a huge gap to the number 44 of Philip Scott as there's a little train developing between these four.
Yeah, really starting to get kind of races within a race here. Whether that be for the second position, which is kind of closing in on each other, or for seventh position, which Philip Scott is currently holding right here with looking at Andrew Himmelman right there with Bill Edwards again. This is a really good job by him being one of the only guys to take tires. I think if there's a caution pretty soon, I think he is in a really great spot. It's that 50 dives down the inside going into turn one. That is a heck of a move. You can just see what fresh tires enable you to do. And not that you would really do that normally, but it enables you to just really drive in and clear those guys. And some great maneuvering going on by that 50 truck is once again underneath Philip Scott and not really getting too hampered by that outside groove, being able to carry 10 momentum and watch this 50 fly into the corner and just clear him. Oh, not quite clear him though, as that 50 trying to make that work. 44 Philip Scott hanging tough on the outside line, which we have seen him do so well in this race, but I just don't think he's going to quite have enough there. Quite a bit of shuffling going on through 3 and 4, and just 9 laps to go now as the leader crosses the start-finish line, and we are closing in on the end of this race here, Peter.
Yeah, we're right on board here with the number 50. Can he close in on the back bumper of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. in the number 33? Great run for that number 33 New Edge Auto Detailing machine here tonight. Of course, it is the New Edge Auto Detailing 180s. So great to have them as the sponsor here tonight out of Indiana. We spoke to Jeffrey Johnson Jr. They're just past the halfway mark in tonight's race. Oh, what's happened to the number 10? Something's happened to the number 10 machine. Oh, he is slow and having connection issues. We'll see what happened here. Monty Glover was around the top 10 when it looks like disaster struck here. Let's see exactly what happened here. Did he just start having connection issues going off into the corner and poof? Yeah, pop, pop, pop. He's gone. And it looks like he was just able to kind of pull it off the racetrack. So that is an absolute heartbreak for the Dirty Gloves Landscaping number 10 F-150 of Monty Glover, who, like I said, was putting together a pretty solid run. There is your race leader. And we have had a change in position. James Lorello was just able to take away the 3rd spot from Nathan Maurer, so he's now going to close in on the back of the number 14, but we only have 6 laps to go here, Drew.
Yeah, we're really closing in on the final stretch here tonight at Iowa. And, James Lorello, again, what we've seen from him tonight is this longer run pace. Unfortunately, we just haven't had the longer runs that 9 truck is needed to get up there and really compete with Mitchell Adams on the merits. But, back through the field, we have had some fantastic racing as we are now looking at the 6 of Doug Milliner in that Indianapolis Colts truck. They're racing for 12th position between he and Colin Ullery, who unfortunately was running so well earlier and then was involved in that unfortunate altercation with the guy he's racing with in that 32 truck of Peter Serto, who is doing a really good job hanging on that outside groove. We'll see if either of these guys are able to get by Doug Milliner, who seems to be holding them up just a little bit, maybe a little tiny truly train going into turn 1. As I thought Peter Serto was going to give that 6 the bumper there, as trying to back up that corner, trying to get a run, though, as now we are looking a little bit of front and back to this fight for 12th position, as these guys are really mixing it up here towards the middle of the pack, as though we just are coming to grab the 3 to go mark here for Mitchell Adams, who has about a second lead on James Lorello, who has been able to retake second position, Pete.
Yeah, you're not missing anything up at the front. This is the best battle really in the field right now. Serto there getting a little bit squirrely coming out of turn number 2. That opens the door for Ullery. And are we thinking about 3 wide here on 3 wide TV? I'm not 100% sure. And here comes Serto back underneath We're still thinking about 3 wide. We're going to make it 3 wide. How about that? As the 84 of Buck's going to throw himself into the mix. Ullery hits those bad bumps up there on the high side. He's going to lose out to Serto. And now Ray Heilig's going to get into this mix. But up at the front, white flag is in the air for this man right here. Mitchell Adams trying to go to victory lane again this season. He has definitely put together a pretty good season considering he hasn't been in every single race that we have run, Drew. He's already got himself 2 wins coming into tonight. Pick up win number 3, a dominant night for your reigning Simbox Truck Series champion. Mitchell Adams goes to victory lane.
Yeah, we talked to him last week, and we know he loves Iowa, and he showed how much he loves it tonight. I don't think anybody really had anything for this 49 truck. A heck of a performance. Though racing's not done, folks. The leader might have taken the checkered flag, but the rest of the field hasn't. As here is Stephen Doziak Jr., TJ Buck in that 84 truck, racing across the line there for 15th position. Let's see what happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if something happened to the number 84 of TJ Buck because he was racing with a group of cars. Oh, there was contact between the 6 and the 62 and the 84 and the 7. They all have a coming together. And I don't know where that all started, but that was like 2 simultaneous accidents. We'll see if we can slow this down because in front of them, the 6 and the 32 come together. And then back behind them, the 62 and the 84 have a coming together. And Ullery goes sliding through the grass. This was coming to the white flag for these guys. And definitely an interesting finish between them. So going to be interesting to see how that all works out and how tempers, if any, flare after the race. But that man right there, Mitchell Adams, going to go to victory lane again here on 3 Wide TV. Very, very impressive for Mitchell Adams. Again, showing us how it is done here at Iowa Speedway. But Drew, I think we're going to step away for just a brief moment. We're going to line up some post-race interviews for you guys, and we'll be right back here on 3 Wide TV. Okay, mics are cold.
All right.
That was an interesting race, to say the least.
Yep, it kind of turned into what you thought it might.
Sadly, yes, but we did get one good green flag run in.
It wasn't horrible. It's just Iowa. It's hard.
Yeah, it is. Okay, we got Jeff Price. Where is Lorello? There he is. Bring him into the interview waiting. Oh, you know, our mics haven't been cold the whole time. So, surprise!
Speak the truth. We're not being mean. Right?
All right, we're back live. You guys got a little bit of the behind the scenes there. I thought my mics were cold. I hit the button. I promise you guys, I hit the button on my little stream deck. But yeah, definitely, a couple caution flags here tonight. But let's see if we can dial up some of those post-race interviews here tonight. Let's see if we can dial up your third place finisher, Jeff Price, and the number 14 machine. Jeff Price, Peter Short, and 3 Wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff, you know what? You didn't quite find enough of that low line there towards the end to pick up the checkered flag. But very solid night for you in that number 14 truck. Tell us about it.
Man, like I said earlier, it really was the long run person's game in this race. But at the end there's just being honest, too many cautions, too many restarts. The heat cycles were unreal. The 2 restarts before the last one there, I could start feeling it in the tires and coming off of turn 2 that last time, I could just tell in the front tires it wasn't there anymore. It's kind of a bummer. Usually we're pretty good about the cautions, but probably the only bad takeaway I take tonight. But really a great race for the top 5 the whole night.
Yeah, definitely a good run, a good solid run for that number 14. Like you said, basically top 5 all night long. Just couldn't quite find that little bit to track down the top 2. Let's talk about brake bias a little bit. I don't know if you played around with the brake bias. I know Iowa is one of those racetracks that a lot of people play around with the brake bias because it has those two different grooves. You have some drivers really charge the corner here. You have others really back up the corner. You have some drivers try and roll that high line. How do you approach this racetrack? Did you play around with the brake bias here tonight to kind of suit your style?
A little bit. I don't really try to use the brake bias. In my opinion, it's kind of a band-aid. If you can just make it where you can go without it, key point, awesome. But what I do is I leave it stock for the most part, and I practice on it, and then I take some of it away. Like I go down to like 60. Like I started the race off at 61, and I keep it where like if it's late in the run and I'm having to roll the top, I'm pushing it to the back to try to get it a little bit looser getting in. But it really hurts your right front a lot more if you're using more rear brake bias. So I try to keep it more as close to the front as I can to keep the truck happy. When you're rolling the bottom, you want to have it around 63. And that's like, I'm giving away my secrets here, dang it. But around 63 is the happy medium to get really good dive into the corner and have enough brake power to slow down, because you really got to get that rolling and kind of lightly just trail braking through the middle. It's but I seen guys that seemed really fast. They were kind of loose on entry tonight, and I'm pretty sure they were using a lot of rear brake bias, but they faded really fast.
Yeah, definitely an interesting racetrack. Very hard to pass here. How important do you think the track position was for that number 14 to kind of stay up in the top 5 for most of the night?
It was extremely important. I've seen several guys go to the back. I know Bill, he lost a little bit of track position there, and it took him pretty much the entire race to get back up front. I know there's actually quite a few. TJ Buck, he fell back, and he never recovered from it. It was just really important to stay up front. If you can get, like, if your driving style supports rolling the bottom, I think you can make some positions up, but most of the times per restart, it's about 2 or 3 positions max. And if you fall back to like 15th, yeah, you're pretty well up the creek. This is usually, I push quite hard on pit road on, just trying to get every inch. And, it's not, I made up like 5 or 6 positions, just not really even trying. But I was not willing to risk going to the back and not being able to get back to the front, because it was terrifying back there. I was kind of looking over at the broadcast, and I'm like, I do not want to be back there at all.
Well, hey, you know what? Fantastic run for you here tonight at Iowa Speedway. We're now getting to that halfway mark of the championship, which is definitely kind of that pivotal moment in the championship of whether or not you think you're going to have a run at, the final few rounds of the playoffs and the chase and all that good stuff. So kind of first, what's your take on the first half of the race, or the first half of the season, I should say? And what are your thoughts about going to Daytona next week?
Honestly, the first half of my season was pretty bumpy. I think 3 out of 4 of the previous races before Charlotte, I had been wrecked out and just taken out of ridiculous cautions and wrecks and stuff. And it was really bumpy. And I think my biggest issue was after pretty much eking out that win at Las Vegas, I'm like, oh, I can get up here and win. And I was trying way too hard. And so now I kind of went back to my roots of just being there at the end, and it's really coming on. Like, if I can keep knocking out these top 3s and 4s throughout the entire regular season, if I can carry that over into the playoffs and just be there at the last round, I really do think that it'll be pretty decent. I really don't like racing like that. I really wanted to try harder, getting more wins, but in my opinion, getting into the playoffs is more important than trying to go win and getting wrecked for the win. Next week at Daytona, it's going to be a crapshoot. Really is. It's going to be the guys who can get the pit road the best. If you have a teammate, I hope Tim will be back with me next week. I really do, because I could really use a teammate next week. It's going to be about who your buddy is and how fast you can get away from everybody. If there's a caution, just you got to be on your toes.
Yeah, without a doubt. Definitely going to be a fun one next week at Daytona. Second time we will be at Daytona this year. Of course, the Simbox 250 started off the season. And then next week, another 100 laps at Daytona. Jeff, before we let you go, any shout-outs?
Absolutely, man. First and foremost, Back Tunnel Productions on my truck. He's been sticking by me. He's thick and thin. They fall around monster trucks, stuff like that, in small arenas. He's lost some work because of low attendance, and he has not backed away at all. So I really do appreciate him coming on board and letting me do this scheme. I love this scheme. I'm a Razorback fan. They've been letting me down, but I decided my painter just threw the Razorback on the side of the truck for the hell of it. Other than that, Simbox, Sim Racing shirts, Brookstone, Taz Racing Customs, and I'm thinking I'm missing one, but yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm missing one. I can't remember. Sorry to whoever that is, but y'all for broadcasting us and the admins for putting this on for us.
Yeah, definitely a great group of people here. But Jeff, congratulations on your third place finish here tonight in the New Wedge Auto Detailing 180, and we'll see you next week at Daytona.
Absolutely. We'll be there and hopefully sneak out the win again.
All right, folks, that's Jeff Price in the number 14 machine, but I believe that Drew Eisenman, who has caught up with our second place finisher here tonight, James Lorello.
James Lorello, Drew Eisenman in the 3-wide TV booth. You got a copy?
Gotcha, man.
Well, James, we certainly saw some really, really solid pace out of that 9 truck tonight. I think that spate of late race cautions kind of hurt your abilities to compete with Mitchell Adams. But can you just give us a brief rundown of how your race went?
Yeah, I had a great long run car. That's what I was really hoping for. When we had that long green flag run, I got the lead there. And I was able to catch Mitchell a bit at the end. He was running low, I was running high. I feel like we were pretty even. And then on that last couple restarts, I just could not get through 1 and 2, starting on that bottom lane inside of him to get a good enough run to hold the other guys off. So at the end there, I think I could have caught him if I had stayed in second and at least battled. I don't know. I could have passed him. He was fast. I mean, Mitchell's good here, but could have been at least been a little closer. But I got caught behind Maurer and Price and had to get around them. But overall, good night. Just wish we would have had a little longer green flag run. I think I could have had something for him.
Yeah, I just kept seeing those cautions and seeing you struggle at it too. I knew it was running through your head when you saw caution after caution after caution come out. But you mentioned your long run pace and that using that high lane was really beneficial. How much of a difference did that high lane make in saving tires, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it really helped me not burn up the right front because I was getting easy in and wasn't turning the wheel a lot. And I think that's what helped me on those long runs. It wasn't like overwhelming amount of speed to get around Mitchell, but it was enough to keep closing the gap.
Yeah, and we saw you kind of do something that I don't think we've really seen you do this season. You actually did an undercut there on Mitchell to grab that race lead. Did what had happened in previous races factor into that decision at all?
Yeah, for sure. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try his trick here and see what I can do. And I didn't practice pit road entry as much as I should have in practice, and I was lucky to make it on there.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned to us that sometimes you're not quite as aggressive enough going on to pit road as some of your competitors, and I definitely think you nailed that tonight. Well, as difficult and as fun as Iowa can be, we have about as different of a track as can really exist in oval racing. To Iowa next week at Daytona International Speedway. Restrictor plate track. You love it, hate it. What's your opinion?
I enjoy racing them. It's just kind of a crapshoot to see what happens. I'll plan to run my teammates Bill and Matt, and I've been wrecked out of the last 2, but we'll see what we can do this time around.
Absolutely. A second place certainly is not going to hurt your position in points. So congratulations on that. Definitely can tell it's not what you wanted, but thanks for talking with us. But before we let you go, is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, man. Thanks to Simbox and this NSRA Racing League. Always great. And thanks to Bill Edwards and Matt Vanderkoy for being my teammates. It was a fun run. Bill back in the top 5, so that's good to see. Just excited to have a second place and see what we do next week.
right, James. Thanks for talking with us.
Yes.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for our second place interview. Everyone got a quick view there of my No Man's Sky screenshots while that was pulled up. Man, just the gremlins that we've had here tonight on 3-Wide TV. But speaking of gremlins, the man who avoided them best here tonight is your race winner, the number 51 of Mitchell, 49 of Mitchell Adams. Man, my numbers are all out of whack here tonight. Mitchell Adams, Peter Short, 3-Wide TV booth, man. Congratulations on your win here tonight. Pretty much as dominating as a race we've seen all season long. I mean, I think back to Lorello, who picked up a win at Dover a couple of weeks back. But here tonight, you led 170 of the 205 laps. What a crazy night it was for you. You had a ton of speed.
Yeah, I know. We brought this 49 truck in here. We had a ton of speed really since we unloaded. This is a track I really like, and I've probably run here more than probably any other track on iRacing. So I was definitely confident coming in. I knew we had a top 3 truck for sure. The goal coming into this one was really just to focus in on being better on the long runs, because that's what's killed us the last few races. And I feel like we definitely showed today. Maybe we weren't quite as fast toward the end of those runs, but I think we definitely had a lot more long run speed to compete tonight, and that did it for us.
Yeah, definitely a very, very impressive night for that number 49. Really the class of the field. I mean, I asked the question a little bit ago to Jeff Price. I was one of those racetrack. There's a couple different ways to run this racetrack. You can really charge the corner. You can charge that low line. You can kind of run the middle groove. You can back up your corner. You can play around with the brake bias to kind of help the balance of the car on entry. There's a lot of bumps here to fight with. I mean, tell the fans watching, like, what about this place suited your style here tonight? How are you able to find that groove?
For me, it's just a lot of experience here. I've had a lot of races to feel out the different grooves, and this being a multi-groove track, it just makes it that much more important to really know what each lane's going to do and how you take the corners will affect the truck. And it's just really kind of played in my favor tonight, I think. There's a lot of different ways, and I played with a few different things throughout the night, kind of hit on something early and really just kind of tried to stick with it through the whole race.
Yeah, definitely you found a lot here tonight, but next week we go to Daytona International Speedway for a completely different type of race there. What are your thoughts about going to Daytona and the High Banks?
Well, right now I'm not going to be at Daytona next week. You know, stuff can always change in the real world with all the stuff going on, but I'd love to be there. Plate racing's one of my favorites. Got 5th at Talladega. Daytona I like more, but we'll just see. I'm not sure that I'll be there, but definitely if I'll be there, plan to watch out because I love plate tracks.
Well, I'll tell you what, you had just cracked yourself into the top 10 in points after last week's event at Indy. And of course, tonight will be a good points night for you taking home the win. You know, you're not out of the picture of making your way into the chase, which happens in about, I think, 6 races from now, a 7-race chase. What do you think your likelihood of making your way into the chase and trying to defend your Simbox Truck Series championship?
I think if we can get into the chase, I think we have a really good chance to make the championship 4 and a good chance to hopefully defend the championship. It's all about getting there. I know there's a few rules with the amount of starts and stuff that I have to look at when we get there, but definitely I think we have the speed to get there and points our way in if we have to. But I think I don't quite remember the rules for the playoffs or if they've changed, but I think definitely if we can make it into the chase to watch out for the 49, I think we've got a lot for the postseason this year.
Well, definitely going to be interesting to keep our eye on you, Mitchell. Of course, you missed a lot of races, but somehow you cracked into the top 10 after the last race. You're going to miss Daytona. It's going to be kind of a nail-biter whether or not you make it into the chase, but will be very exciting. Congratulations on your win here tonight at Iowa. Best of luck. Hopefully, we'll see you on the racetrack for the special event that's coming up, the All-Star event, which will then be after Daytona, because, of course, Daytona marks the halfway point of the season. Then we go over to the All-Star. So hopefully we'll see you for that All-Star race.
If the All-Star race is after Daytona, I will probably be there. It'll be close. You never know. I think I can probably make it back home in time for the All-Star race, though.
All right. Well, hopefully you can, and hopefully we can see you out there on the racetrack soon. But best of luck in everything else you have going on, Mitchell, and hope to see you back on the racetrack soon.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, hold on. Mitchell, I don't think I gave you the opportunity to give any shout-outs. Definitely want to give you that opportunity before we let you go, so let's hear them.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything, but no, I just want to shout out. I've got the Shadowscapes paint scheme on tonight. This is for my marching band at my high school because most of our season got canceled. I'm running this paint scheme. It's kind of a tribute to all them. Since we didn't get a season, got some signatures of some people on here, like Jimmy Johnson did. So just everybody in my marching band, everybody that watches the 49, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, Highside Motorsports. I know Nicole's watching. Anybody else? Just thank you for the broadcasts and the league for hosting our races like usual.
Absolutely. It's definitely been an interesting night up here in the booth, that's for sure, but an interesting night out there on the racetrack. Mitchell Adams, congratulations. Go celebrate.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that is going to do it for our post-race interviews. Before we go any further, though, we definitely have one thing to bring up, and that is, of course, your Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the Race Award. And we mentioned his name a couple of times here tonight and stating he was in the running for the Biggest Move of the Race Award. And that would end up being the number 971, Nathan Maurer. That number 971, he started back in 26, comes home with 4th. That is plus 22 positions. Congratulations to Nathan Maurer for being your Taz Racing Customs Biggest Mover of the race. Make sure you check out them for all of your custom die cast needs. But Drew, I think it's about time for us to go through the final race results, so why don't you lead us through them?
Yeah, we just talked to him. Our winner tonight, 49, Mitchell Adams. James Lorello, the number 9 truck, P2. Jeff Price, P3, rounds out our podium. Nathan Maurer will bring home P4 with Bill Edwards. A really good job taking tires there late in the race, put him back down into well outside of the top 10, almost down into the 20th position, able to recover, snag that top 5. Robert Dudley, another good consistent run from that 15 truck in 6th position. Jeffrey Johnson Jr., man, we talked about him. And quite frankly, I should mention this for Nathan Maurer as well. Nathan Maurer started 26th, finished 4th. And then Jeffrey Johnson Jr. started 22nd, finished 7th. Obviously, we'll get to our Biggest Mover of the Race award after this, but just got to give a shout out to those guys. Incredible efforts. Jordan Shepler as well started 16th, finished 8th. Philip Scott, as he said during the broadcast when we interviewed him under that yellow flag, started 27th, started P last, and brings it home 9th. Andrew Himmelman, probably on the opposite side of that spectrum, manages to bring home a top 10, but starting second, got to be a little disappointing for that 4-truck, Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. Himmelman had a lot of pace early in the running, and it just seemed like that damage that he did get on that number 4 truck, he wasn't able to overcome it. Finishing in the 11th position here tonight, Joshua Sobel, another driver who kind of had a roller coaster night, but he was kind of glued to around that 10th position. I think we saw him, around the 8th position. We saw him drop back to around 18th. So good recovery there right at the end for the number 30 truck. Peter Serto in the number 32. We had a couple of Peter Serto fans in the chat here tonight. He comes home in 12th. Doug Milliner in the number 6 Indianapolis Colts Ford F-150. He comes home 13th. Ray Heilig involved in some late race scuffles in the 7 machine. He finishes 14th. TJ Buck in 15th. We saw him go around there late. Steven Doziak comes home in 16th. He was a couple laps down. I think he was 2 or 3 laps down at one point in the Dunkin' Donuts machine, coming home to finish 16th on the lead lap. Colin Ullery in the 62. He also went around late in the going. Coming to the white flag, he comes home in 17th position and the last truck on the lead lap. Brian Bradley, who was the luckiest dog of them all here tonight, picking up a ton of Brookstone Animal Hospital Lucky Dog Awards. Not quite able to pick up that last one to get back on the lead lap, but he comes home in 18th. Monty Glover with some late race connection issues. He's going to fall down to 19th position, right in front of Matt Vander Kooi, who ends up 16 laps down there, Drew.
Yeah, Pete, and now, we're getting to the guys that definitely did not have the nights that they wanted, with Aaron Mack bringing home P21, 23 laps down. Adam Dama will finish in 22nd. Joey Doucette involved in that wreck with Chris Darling there, finishes 23rd. Ben Mashburn, 24th. Chris Darling involved in an unfortunate number of wrecks tonight, most, if not all of which were not his own doing, will bring it home 25th. Ben Adams, likewise, 78 laps down, 26th. And Paul Bilson, who never turned a lap on the lead lap, involved in a wreck as well, will finish 27th, rounding out our field. Unfortunate for all of those guys involved. None of them had the nights that they envisioned coming into tonight at Iowa.
Yeah, definitely a tough night for a couple of these drivers, but I'm sure a lot of them will be glad to see Iowa in the rear, at least this last page of them, because, of course, next week we do go to Daytona International Speedway, 100 laps, 250 miles around the high banks at night. It's going to be great to see Daytona at night. We got to see it during the day for the Simbox 250 to start off the Simbox Truck Series season, but definitely going to be a fun one. And I got to say, big congratulations here tonight to the man, Mitchell Adams, picking up the New Edge Auto Detailing 180. A big shout out to them for, of course, sponsoring tonight's race. But Drew, any final thoughts about tonight's event?
Just tricky driving tonight, Pete. I think we saw what I expected to be, a track that typically when it's cool and with the current iteration of stock cars, it tends to be really tight, and it turned out to be far more challenging for a driver than I anticipated. And I think that's why we saw the guys up front that we saw, right? That's why we saw James Lorello. That's why we saw the 49 of Mitchell Adams be so successful. Is I think it was a really difficult track, and it just rewards great drivers. And that's why we saw the finishers that we saw up front.
Yeah, and one thing I'm just going to add is we saw quite a few caution flags here tonight. This racetrack, based on my experience here, lends itself to cautions. We saw quite a few cautions where someone would chop down on someone, someone would turn in later than someone would just run over someone. This racetrack, I mentioned it, it's kind of like a road course, where on a road course you get lots of different cars with lots of different braking points. At this racetrack, because you have that low line where there's not a lot of grip down there and you have more grip in that second groove, and there's no grip up in that third groove, there's lots of bumps up there, it ends up being a fight for that middle groove. And we definitely saw that here tonight, especially in the latter half of the race. Some drivers were just fighting for that second groove. And it led to contact. I'm thinking back to when the 30 and the 13 had it coming together. Man, that was hard to pin on both drivers. That's just Iowa, in my opinion. That's what this racetrack lends itself. It kind of funnels, if you will, because that second groove is so important, and there's those different racing lines out there on the front straightaway. It definitely becomes that type of racetrack. You see the same thing at Richmond, where you have that kind of D-shaped oval, and everyone tries to fight for that bottom line, and there's different breaking points at Richmond as well. So, definitely a couple of cautions there in the last half of the race for sure. But that's what Iowa brings. It's definitely one of those racetracks that's difficult to drive, difficult to master, and it does put on a good show when you get some great side-by-side action. We saw a lot of that here tonight. So I think there's a lot of, positives that the field can take from tonight. That side-by-side action, when we saw it, was absolutely awesome. And we saw that, pretty much every single green flag run we got, even those short ones. So, some drivers might be a bit disappointed with the fact that we had all those cautions in the second half of the race. Of course, these drivers here in the Simbox Truck Series, we've seen them go basically caution-free in races this season. So some of them might be a bit disappointed with that, But at the end of the day, they still know how to put on a good show, and I very much enjoyed it. Of course, we had that great run to the finish right there at the end. That was all green flag. So, all things considered, it's Iowa. We got past it. We're now going to go over to Daytona, and very much looking forward to that one right here on 3 Wide TV next week. But, folks, I think that is going to do it here for us tonight. Big shout out to Simbox for sponsoring the series here, the National Sim Racing Association, as well as New Edge Auto Detailing for jumping on board and sponsoring tonight's race, the New Edge Auto Detailing 180. And how about the 33 of Jeffrey Johnson Jr. Stepping up, sponsoring tonight's race from his business and picking up a top 10. Definitely pretty awesome to see that there, Jeffrey. Congratulations on that. But for myself, Peter Short, and Mr. Drew Eisenman, we want to give each and every one of you good night, and we'll see you next week at Daytona. See ya!